It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under the full 40. Becky's taken a ripper!
He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
The big goal!
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest!
From outside the arc, it's a long bomb from outside the arc!
This is for the love of the game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
Welcome to For the Love of the Game. Finals are almost upon us. The last week coming in this weekend, Matthew Donald, of regular season competition for a number of different sections. Then it's finals next week, and right up and down the VAFA, all the way across the board, everyone's talking about finals races and relegation races. It is chaos across the board. It's going to be fantastic.
I know. Thank you, Jace. And wherever you look, there's something to be excited about, no matter what division, no matter what end of the ladder. Getting to that time of the season now where every game means something to everyone. So it's going to be a ripping next few weeks for sure.
Two-time premiership coach Hugo Higginbotham joins us again. Hugo, welcome. As a coach at Elstonwick, of course, this time was exciting but a little bit stressful. Now as a VAFA media man, you can just sit back and enjoy the show.
Absolutely, Jace. We had a great weekend of footy and finals coming. There's no stress of wondering, will the injury get up? Are they going to come to training? And the dreaded one too. Don't forget, you've got to break some hearts this time of year coming into finals too, because people come back from injuries. It's a
fit
tough
everyone
time.
in.
No, can't fit it all in. So
not your concern anymore, mate. You can just sit back and enjoy the footy.
Exactly.
And there's been plenty of great footy to enjoy. We're going to start with William Buck Premier Men's, as we usually do. And the race to avoid relegation has tightened even further over the weekend. 5 teams separated by just 1 win in the battle to avoid 9th spot, while 10th spot also remains up for grabs. The Snow Dogs are still alive. It's been a crazy season. Gets even crazier. Let's take a close look. And we're going to start at Camberwell Sports Ground. Old Trinity continued their turnaround in form. They snapped their 9-game winless streak. They saw off a fast-finishing Old Scotch by a single kick at Camberwell Sports Ground. First term, highly contested. 33 clearances for the quarter. And the Tees won 22 of them, a huge number. And they parlayed those in a bit of territorial advantage. And pleasingly, Hugo, for Donald McDonald, they actually converted those entries into scores. It's been an ongoing problem for them this season. This time around, they kicked 5 goals in the opening term. It was their best since blitzing the Zabs early in round 2, and they headed to the first huddle with a 14-point lead.
Yeah, very important to get scoreboard pressure on early, which they did. So that's it sets the day up for yourselves as well. It gets that feeling of confidence, and they need a bit of confidence too. It's been a long time between drinks for wins for the boys, but that first quarter, look at the result at the end of the game. Very, very important, that first quarter.
Yeah, exactly right. And Christos Manasakis, who we've seen play big V footy, and we know he's an elite player in this competition, 12 disposals, 7 clearances, 2 goals in the first quarter alone. Again, a guy who just said, no, you know what? I'm not standing for this. I'm a leader of this football club. I'm going to stand up and make a statement.
And this is the time to do it. This is when you really need your best players taking ownership of the situation. And great for the Tees to get a bit of reward, because getting their hands on the football in the opening term hasn't really been an issue for them over the past couple of months. But it's been this sort of chip, sideways sort of ball movement. Nothing really...
Get it on the
Nothing
scoreboard.
really direct, yeah, but it looks like they went on a direct route to goal this time round, and they got the reward with 5 goals in the opening term.
Yeah, 14 points up at quarter time. And they kicked a couple in 2 minutes midway through the term. They got out to 24 points, and the Cards needed to dig in and respond, and they did. They kicked a couple of majors. They got the deficit back to 10 points at the major break. Then Old Trinity hit back the opening play of the third term. This might be the quickest VAFA goal of the year, and I'm not sure if you've seen it. Yep. Literally, the start of the third quarter, ball up, out of the middle, tap down, when to Luke Teal from inside the centre square, launched the kick. Within 4 seconds, it was through for a goal.
I tried to watch it, but I blinked.
It was over.
I think the callers really missed it too. Getting back into it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And it was one of just 2 goals in the first 15 minutes of the quarter. The game tightened right up and then exploded into a goldfest. They kicked 5 in the next 15 minutes in the back half of the third term. It's amazing how games sometimes can just have this arm wrestle, and then suddenly, for no reason at all, the game just cracks open. Angus Jones and Harry Robenstone got the Cards back within a kick. The Tees booted 3 of the next 4, got back out to 3 goals up at the final change. Dom Payman, and we've sung his praises all year, he kicked his 5th goal 12 minutes in the final term. Old Trinity out to 23 points up, and it looked like they were home. Looked like that was probably going to be enough to get them that first win that they've been looking for a couple of months. But Old Scotch, who needed a win as well to make sure they stay clear of the drop zone, they weren't done. They had goals at the 15-minute mark, the 23-minute mark, got it back to 12 points. Will Clark then took a mark right in front of the scoreboard down there at Camberwell to the right of screen, arced around, didn't even stop, just took the mark, arced around, and from about 55 out, just launched it through post high. And it was a goal the difference, and the steal was potentially on. However, the ball went back to the middle. There's only 15 seconds left on the clock. The siren sounded pretty much straight away. The T survived. And it sees them leap from 9th to 7th. They're out of the drop zone. Half a game clear of the drop zone, while Old Scotch still in the relegation scrap now. They're just one game plus 13% clear of Old Haileybury with 3 games remaining. Next up for the Tees, another critical relegation battle. They'll host Uni Blacks, who are half a game behind them at Daily Oval, while the Cardinals also face a relegation rival. They'll be at Caulfield to face Grammarians, and the winner will take a huge step towards safety. So still a long way to go for both these teams yet, but a massive result for the Tees.
Oh, it's huge, and never really felt like they were far away from getting a win, even though they've been on a 9-game losing streak.
Some close losses, a draw, and finally they've got the reward for that steady build.
So I think this will. And I think this sort of indicates the way that they've gone about it and that they haven't been far away. They finally got a bit of reward for effort now. But I tell you what, these fixtures this week, you just sort of touched on them there, Jason. We'll get to them in the tips later on. They're going to be huge. The difference between winning and losing those games could be the difference between Prem A and Prem B next season. They're absolutely massive encounters.
Yeah, Trinity will play Uni Blacks and Scotch play Caulfield. We'll start with Trinity. Donald McDonald must have been thrilled to finally get on the winners list after such a long run of outs. And as you say, they haven't dropped their heads. They've kept fighting, and finally they've got the reward.
Well, indeed they have. And he said right from the start they were able to compete, which is very important, and it was critical to build on what he described as a really strong finish last week. Not much difference between the two teams, and that's often going to be the case when it's only decided by a goal. And we're just fortunate enough to be in front when the final siren sounded. As you said, another couple of minutes, it could have been a different scoreline altogether. He gave credit to the players that they were able to keep at it for 4 quarters because they led pretty much the whole day. They've never given up, he said. They've just kept at it all season. And against a pretty talented Scotch outfit, was absolutely delighted to come away with 4 critical points.
So interesting time for Old Scotch now. They're clear of the drop zone, but as I said, only just. They're not clear of relegation yet. What did Natty have to say?
Yeah, he said he was very disappointing to lose, which is quite obvious, but he credited Old Trinity, saying they're the better team on the day and deserved the 4 points. And their best players were very good, which is the guys we talk about standing up, like Manatakis and McGlashan, those guys.
Don Payman.
Yeah. And they dominated in the clearance. So minus 11 in the first quarter, which is huge. That's very un-Scotch-like too, but that's a credit to Trinity, so they'll be really proud with that. It levelled out from there, but the damage was done. And he spoke about the inability to retain possession, and that hurt them. And that's sort of un-Scotch-like as well.
That's their game, isn't it?
Yeah.
That keepings off game is their game.
And their fundamentals need to improve. He said that. Positive side of things, he's always got a positive in there, Natty. You love him for that. The team pressure was excellent. They had 196 team involvements, which is one of their KPIs. So they need to bring that. And he said Jack Brown, just brilliant in the back line. So, and then big match this week against Caulfield. And he's looking forward to that. So.
Yeah, the winner of that, as we said, takes a massive step towards safety. Not completely safe, but I tell you what, they'll sleep a lot better on Saturday night, whoever wins that Scotch Caulfield game.
Yeah, won't be mathematically safe, but will be just about home and dry for the winner. But for the loser, it's going to be a reasonably stressful fortnight coming up.
So the impact, the ripple effect of that victory for Old Trinity made the clash at the Snake Pit between St Bernard's and Caulfield even more significant because the benchmark to safety suddenly lifted from 18 points where Trinity was. Now it's at least 20. You're going to need at least 20 points to be safe in 2026. With a 4 to 5 goal breeze at their back, the Field's got away to one of the great flying starts of the season. They kicked 5 goals in the first 14 minutes, and it took almost 19 minutes for the home team to get their first goal. They got a steady, and they kicked a second 7 minutes later and managed to minimise the damage that was important for the Snow Dogs. So it was just 19 points at quarter time after the Field's got a flyer. St Bernard's won more of the footy in the opening term, then took their turn with the breeze. They dominated clearance, they dominated ground ball, they owned territory, 25 inside 50s to 4 rather in the second term. And most pleasing for coach Steve Alessio, who we should congratulate, won the Herald Shuns Shield with the school team during the week, was that his side made the dominance count. So a little bit like we said with Trinity earlier, Hugo, it's one thing to have those inside 50s, you've got to put them on the scoreboard, but they kicked 8-9 to a goal. That was their best quarter of the entire season for St Bernard's. It's been coming, and it must have been thrilling for them to see it finally come to fruition.
Yeah, that's a lot of scoring shots. That's a massive amount of scoring shots.
Well, 25 inside 50s for 17 scores.
Yeah. So that's a really good turnaround there. So what they must have been doing really well, obviously haven't seen the game yet, is they must have been defending those exits. And you know that pressure builds when you can't get the ball out of your defensive
25
half.
Inside 50s to 4.
So it must have just been repeat entry. So that's a very encouraging side. I still don't think their ladder position and the wins they've had reflects on their season. They've been so close in so many games. They just haven't been able to get it across the line. So
that's what you tend to find. I mean, D-La last year obviously had a difficult time and they were 0-18, but even then they were in games. Yeah. They were in patches and they just have 10 minutes in a quarter where someone would kick 5 on them and that would be the difference in the game. And we see that often with these teams down the bottom this year as well, Matty, that their best footy is good enough to challenge anyone. It's just they can't go as hard for as long.
Yeah, and we've seen with St Bernard's, I mean, they're up against Old Scotch and Old Zavs in the last month, and they've fallen to both of them by a kick.
Yes.
And, you know, if they had got over the line in one of those games or both of those games, this ladder would look completely different. So you're absolutely spot on that despite the record, it suggests that they're a way off the rest of the pack, but that's not been the case.
And the percentage sort of shows as well. Their percentage for St Bernard's is around about the 75 mark, so it's not disgraceful. They're not getting belted.
Strong for 3 wins.
So they trailed by 30 points 18 minutes into the opening term, and they led by 32 at half-time. So in the space of just over a quarter, it was a 10-goal turnaround for St Bernard. So extraordinary. Now, the Fields, as we know, the great characteristic of them all year has been their resilience. They do not quit. They rolled up the sleeves. They got to work. They took control on the inside. They had 17 inside 50s in the third term, kicked 5 unanswered goals for the quarter. So they slashed a 32-point half-time lead back to 1 point at three-quarter time. The Snow Dogs would have the breeze at their backs, though, in the last term. The Fields kicked the first 2 of the final term, got it out to 9 points. But in the end, Snow Dogs regained control. They dominated territory. They kicked the final 4 goals of the game. A 19-point win snapped their agonising 7-game losing streak that, as you mentioned, Matty, 3 losses by 4 points or less. So a little bit like Old Trinity, they just finally found a way to get over the line. St Bernard's 3rd victory of the season keeps their faint hopes of avoiding relegation alive. They now sit 2 games plus 15% behind the Blacks in the race for safety with 3 to play. So they're going to have to come up with at least 2 victories, Hugo, requiring them to upset at least one of Uni Blues or Old Brighton before they face Old Trinity in the final round and hope that other results go their way. So it's difficult, but it's not impossible. The Dogs have escaped the noose before. They're going to have to head into the next couple of weeks with a free swing mindset against the league leaders and the reigning champs. They're going to have to, at the very least, knock off one of them and then beat Old Trinity in the last round and hope that other results work as well.
What they've got to do is they've got to take some confidence out of the last few weeks. Those narrow defeats to top-end sides.
Yeah.
Look,
well, if you can almost beat Zabs, literally until almost the last kick of the day, you're a chance if you play well enough to be against anyone.
Absolutely. So I always thought they will take a scalp, and I'm surprised they didn't get that in the last couple of weeks. But then no better chance than this weekend against the Blues. So that was a tough game the Blues had on the weekend, so it's possible.
And the other thing that they'll have going for them in that last fortnight against the Tunners and the Tees, both games at the Snake Pit.
Yeah.
And you can imagine that would have been heaving in the last quarter last week.
Huge difference. Huge difference.
I think an important factor for the Dogs is some top-end availability, which we might see in the next few weeks with VFL finishing up.
So it's always at the last couple of rounds of the year, always a little, like, teams, if the top 4 is pretty much settled now, do a couple of those teams start to actually rest some players and things, right? So, like, if you're Old Brighton and you can't go higher or lower, do you just say, righto, well, a couple of our guys that are absolute A-graders are a bit sore, we'll give them the week off. Like, you just don't know. From a Caulfield perspective, this loss and Trinity's win increases their relegation jeopardy. Suddenly they're only half a game above the drop zone, and they've got a tough run home, Matty. If they can find another win, they've got Old Scotch at home, Blues away, Brighton at home. So 3 challenging games. If they can find another win, that'll force Haileybury to win 2 of their last 3, and Haileybury have got an even tougher run home. But if the Fields can't find a way to win one of those 3 against Scotch, Blues and Brighton, they're going to need the Bloods to lose all 3 as well if they're to survive.
Yeah, well, if they do get a win, then they're a game and a half at least clear with 2 to play. But if they do lose, depending on how it all sort of works, they could find themselves. They probably won't find themselves in the bottom 2 at the end of the weekend because the Tees and the Blacks play each other. Yeah. But they'll be dangerously close still to being inside that
game
2.
against Scotch this week, how big is that?
Yeah, that's massive for both of them.
At home, though, so that's a positive for there. They play that ground really well, but.
It's crazy to think we've got a relegation race of 6.
Yeah, ridiculous. Hey, Steve Alessio must be thrilled because, again, as we said, they've fought so hard, a little bit like the Tees, and just for no reward, and finally they get over the line.
Yeah, no, he was. Didn't feel that way after the first 10 minutes. He had that feeling of this might be a long one, he said to his coaching staff. But they rallied towards the end of the first term, and then he said the second term was their best of the year, and 17 scores from 25 entries. Be hard to top that. He thought the contested work against the Wind in the third was absolutely outstanding and set up the platform for the final term. They got out of the blocks, did the Fields at the start of the last term, which got a couple of goals, made it 7 in a row. They had a bit of momentum in the Fields, but again, they were able to wrestle it back, and they came home with a really strong win. So he was very happy to get a win after what's been a trying few weeks without getting that result, but now they've got it on the board.
We know Paul Sadley at Caulfield's so pragmatic. What did Sats have to say?
Well, he went straight to the second quarter. He said that was really poor, un-Caulfield-like. So given the fight they've shown all season, so he's disappointed there. But he gave St Bernard's full credit. They played really well that quarter. He was happy with the response in the second half. That was more reflective of what he wanted to see from his players and as a club. He had the breeze in the third quarter and fought back well, continued that into the last, but unfortunately just couldn't stop the run of the Dogs. He was really happy with Noah Sutherland, Paddy Fairley, and of course Jack Elwood as well, those three guys. And they can't wait for the game this weekend. They've got to get back on the park just to put play to what they put out on the weekend.
Yeah, Caulfield and Old Scotch, what a game. We'll get our tips a little bit later on. University Blues successfully defended their status at the top of the table. They powered away from Old Brighton with a powerful last quarter at Brighton Beach Oval. The Tunners had a benefit of the 4-5 goal win in the opening term. You two gentlemen were there. They put it to good use. They kicked 6-5 to 1-3 to lead the premiership favourites by 32 points at the first change. It was their intercept game that made the difference. They kicked 3 goals to zip from turnovers, 3-4 to 2 behind. Sam Linder with 11 disposals, 5 rebound 50s in the opening term. At quarter time, how much of the dominance of Old Brighton, the 32-point lead, did you guys put down to the wind, and how much did you put down to Brighton being good or the Blues being a bit flat?
Oh, there was probably elements of all of that. We were trying to get a gauge on the wind. You know, it was definitely tape down your paperwork sort of stuff. The wind was howling.
I think your phone almost disappeared at one point, didn't it?
A couple of times.
A couple of times, yeah.
But Brighton were really good. They came to play. They had pressure on the Blues straight away, which you could see. Blues were struggling to exit that D50. So we probably thought it was about a 4-goal breeze. So we were thinking maybe it's a bit below par, maybe subpar. But then, as Matty said, both teams have to bat on a wicket.
That's right.
That's what we had to see after that.
And then the Blues had the win, and they were just as damaging on the turnover. They kicked 6 goals from Tunner errors in the second term, rocketed back into the game, 7-3 to 2 zip, to hit the front by a point at the half after slamming on 3 goals in 4 minutes, and Geordie LaCava's long bomb on the run sailed through with just a few seconds remaining. So it was beautifully poised at halftime, 1 point the difference. But obviously with that win, Matty, Old Brighton needed to open up a lead in the third term in order to give themselves something to defend in the final term. But the Blues did a great job in the third quarter. They controlled the game from the inside, dominated clearances, and then took 7 intercept marks for the term as well.
Yeah, no, they were outstanding defensively in that third term. I think with both teams in the first half, they actually defended reasonably well for the first 20 minutes, and then the team with the breeze eventually made it count in time on. I think both teams kicked 4 goals in time on with the aid of the breeze in the third term, but that advantage never came for Old Brighton in the third term. Uni Blues defended so well behind the ball. They'd seen what it was like in the first half. They made the adjustments necessary. They set things up beautifully, and critically, they made the most of their opportunities going the other way. Some outstanding finishing into a gale force breeze out at Brighton Beach. It was a terrific turn from them.
Did James Stewart kick goal of the year?
He definitely kicked set shot of the year. I don't think there'll be a better set shot.
Talk us through it. It was right in front of you guys on the balcony there from the left forward pocket.
Yeah, so he's marked the ball about 45, 50 metres out from goal, but right where the arc meets the boundary line. He's kicking right into the teeth of it. It's not going directly to the goals. It's sort of going across goal. So he's opened up the arc. He's flushed the kick from just inside the paint of 50, and it cleared the fence.
Yep.
It was an unbelievable set shot. Hard to give goal of the year to a set shot, but I do think it is the set shot of the year.
In the context of the breeze, and at one stage when he went back, he was right against the fence with some Brighton people standing right
Giving
beside him.
advice.
Yep.
It was, but it just showed great composure.
So those last couple of goals they kicked into the howling gale in the third term made all the difference in the end, didn't they? They put the foot down early in the last quarter, kicked away, and then 4 goals in 10 minutes midway through the term put the result beyond doubt. 32-point win, their first at Brighton Beach Oval since round 5 of 2023. Also, the last season they won both their meetings against the Tunners. Darcy Churgwin had an impact, his first game for the Blues for the season. Sandringham had the bye, so he stepped back into VAFA level. Last year's number 1 ball winner in the Premier Men's. He had 29 disposals, 20 contested, 8 tackles, 12 clearances. And the Blue Boys extended their winning streak to 10 straight. They were a game clear plus 10% of Old Zabs at the top of the table. One more victory. They lock in the double chance come September. Matty Smith must be absolutely thrilled. Their team is humming.
Yep, delighted. He said they were a little off from the first bounce, and it certainly wasn't the way that he wanted to play very early on, and found out pretty quickly that if you give Old Brighton a sniff, they're going to make you pay pretty quickly indeed. And that's what they did. And part of that was due to the win, but part of that was due to the fact that they wanted a bit more in the opening term. But the Blues didn't panic, which Matty Smith gave credit to. They kept themselves calm and were able to make the couple of changes that they needed to get themselves back in the game and even get themselves themselves back in front at the half. And then they managed to get the game back on their terms from there. They moved the ball a bit quicker. They defended a bit quicker. Marty Gleeson, he reserved praise for in particular, who was outstanding behind the ball, especially in that third term when they are having to defend into the breeze. There's still work for them to improve on. They're not the finished product yet, he says. They've got some work they've still got to iron out before finals, and an opportunity to do that against St Bernard's, who are in good form and have got still a lot to play for.
Yeah, always a tricky game against the Dogs, particularly when they've got their backs to the wall. So results below the Tunners meant that this defeat was essentially no harm done. Scotch and Caulfield both lost, Hugo, so it hasn't cost them, hasn't suddenly closed the gap and loosened their hold on a top 4 spot. So other than the top finish now, 2 finish now is pretty much off the table for Old Brighton, so they're going to have to defend their premiership the long way via the first semi.
Yeah, so Marcel Brun spoke about the wind on the weekend, saying it was stronger, but he thought that Uni used it better, so which was obvious. They had their opportunities in the second quarter, but the Blues pressure, and he mentioned to punish them from turnover, which we saw that on the weekend. The Blues are excellent at that. And got the advantage on the scoreboard. He said it was disappointing to finish the game the way they did. He said, although it was a really good example of VAFA footy, which it certainly was. I mean, top end of the table sort of stuff. They had a couple of winners. Buck Linder, he's outstanding. And again, Harry Hill. We just keep mentioning that name week in, week out every time. And he fortunately didn't have enough winners on Saturday, but it was a great reminder of where they need to be to compete. And that's a really good statement there. And they've got 3 big weeks to get through.
And they're 3 games plus almost 25% ahead of the Old Scotch with just 3 to play. And we know not to write Old Scotch off, but all 3 of Old Brighton's opponents are in the relegation race. They only need to win one of those games. Old Haileybury at home, St Bernard's away, Caulfield away. And you look at Old Scotch, they've got Caulfield, Uni Blacks and Old Zabs. So irrespective of what Old Scotch does, if Old Brighton wins one of those 3 games, they definitely mathematically can't be caught.
And even if they do drop the ball and Old Scotch run the table from here, it's a gap of 25% that they've got to make up, which is
never say never, but almost never. Old Zabs return to the winners list with an emphatic 4-quarter display against Uni Blacks at Melbourne University. Harry Broderick flew out of the blocks. 14 disposals and 3 clearances in the opening term for Uni Blacks. They were on top around the contest, but it was Zabs who seized the initiative due to 30 turnovers from Blacks. Dale Bauer must have been tearing his hair out. It delivered Zabs 4 of their first 6 goals and gave them a 23-point advantage at the first break based on turnover. The second term tightened up. Both sides kicked 2 apiece. And then the game broke open a bit in the third term. Zabs capitalised on Black's errors, kicked another 5 goals to 2, got out to 47 points at the last change. The Red and Black then took complete control in the final term, 116 disposals, added another 4 unanswered goals. The Blacks kicked 6 behinds for the term. Just a frustrating day all around for poor old Dale Bauer. They got away to a 67-point win, Old Zabs, their largest over Blacks at Melbourne Uni in the modern era, so since 2010. Marcus Stavro, best for the Zabs for a second straight week. He was outstanding. Campbell Lane had 43 disposals, 11 rebound 50s and 3 goals. Another example of his 2-way work ethic. He's got to be in the race for this year's Woodrow medal, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. He's been stellar right from the first game of the season. We were at that game, Hugo. He was our Skins player of the match that weekend. Set the tone early, and he's just been a model of consistency ever since.
So Dale Bauer's team held to its lowest score since round 17 of last year. The Blacks slipped to 8th position after Old Trinity's win. They're now just 12% clear of the drop zone, which I find it's almost staggering to me. The Blacks have been in so many games this year and played such good footy at times, yet they're just 12% clear of the drop zone and they're in danger. So the upside, though, Hugo, for them, and this is all you can ask for at this time of the year, is your destiny is still in your own hands. Yes. It's still up to you. That's what you can sell to your players because they'll play the team immediately above them, Old Trinity, and the team immediately below them, Old Haileybury, in the final 3 weeks. So an incredible relegation round robin between those 3 teams. But the reality is, if the Blacks are good enough to stay up, they stay up.
Yeah, they've probably really just got to put this one out of their heads straight away and focus on what's in front of them. I mean, the week before they were really good, kicked a massive score, and this one on the weekend, up against a really good opposition who know they'll be playing finals, who are getting better and that run to finals, and probably you see the level you need to be at and how important that is.
Dale Bauer doesn't say a lot at the best of times. What did he say after this one?
They play with great energy and physicality in the first half, but unfortunately had a bad half in terms of offensive efficiency. And it can sap your energy when you're unable to retain the ball, which you can. You can have a really good passage of play and just that one turnover because you've got to start running the other way. Because everyone's thinking, right, I'm going to get into an attacking position. And, and it could be simple turnover as well. But Zabs are very good on that turnover ball and their pressure is elite. He also said they weren't able to maintain enough fight in our game, but our disposal improved, which was a positive. So you take that positive into the next week.
Zabs 12-3 now, Matty. One game behind the Blues, one game ahead of St Kevin's, plus about 9%. So second spot still up for grabs. It might be settled this week. One of the games of the year. Old Zabs and Scob coming this weekend. We'll get to that shortly. What did Dan Donati take out of the game against the Blacks?
He said it's never easy playing them at University Oval, so they'd primed themselves for this game and were really pleased to get the result. Not just the 4 points, but how they did it. The overall four-quarter effort was outstanding and got the result that was needed and deserved. And he wanted to make mention of the fact that the Zabs, they found another one. Sam Nicklaus, who's been in the under-19s program all season. I know LACHIE MOIR and CENCH will be all across that. He got a debut in the seniors, which is great for him and for the Zabs too. He's one to keep an eye out for years to come.
The final game of the round, St Kevin's kept their top two hopes alive with a strong 8-goal win over Old Haileybury. St Kevin's profited from the turnovers that came from there. The Bloods ramped up the tackle pressure and profited from the turnovers. They kicked 4-4 to 2-3. They led Scob by 13 points at quarter time. It was really good, high-pressure football from Old Haileybury early. Jack Bell then kicked another one. They got out to 3 goals up 9 minutes into the second term. Then Stephanakis and Charlie Harrop both hit the score sheet. It was the visitors by 23 points approaching time on, so a super start for them. And then Will Cooper, the second gamer for Scob, who did such a great job last week. They're only multiple goal scorer. He dragged a goal back entering time on. 4 consecutive behinds. It was the hosts heading to half-time. Only 13 points down. They managed to minimise the damage after the Bloods got that great start. Scob, as they do, then turned up the heat in the third term. Their pressure was taking its toll on the Bloods. 4 goals in 6 minutes midway through the term. Ethan Phillips enjoyed a rare stint forward. He kicked a couple of goals. And they went from a couple of goals down to a couple of goals up, entering time on in the third. Sekal and Noziara responded with 2 in 2 minutes, made it a 1-point game. And then Phillips again kicked his third goal of the quarter. And it was Scob heading to the final huddle with an 8-point lead. And then they stepped it up early in the last quarter. They kicked the first 3 goals to really crack the game open to have a 27-point lead 9 minutes in. Ethan Phillips again popped up. What a positional masterstroke from Anthony Lynch. He's thrown the big easy forward and he's kicked 4 goals in a quarter and a bit, which, considering he'd only had 3 goals in his previous 24 VAFA games, that's a pretty good result.
That's an outstanding result. And what I like about that is you're having a look. You're not one-dimensional. You can change things around. So you might be struggling in a final in a day. You know you've got that one up your sleeve, and he's got the experience of going forward. So great for him as well to be at the other end of the ground rather than watch him go over his head. He's kicking some for a change, but also too got a bit of confidence. You know he can do it and go there and play and compete.
Credit to the Bloods. They looked like they were in trouble when the margin blew out to sort of almost 5 goals 9 minutes into the last quarter. But Connell and Stephanakis kicked goals and got it back to 16 points approaching time on in the final term. Maybe a comeback was on, but then St Kevin's, as they often do, put the game to bed with authority. They kicked the last 5 of the game to explode away to what was a deceptively large 48-point win, Matty. It was closer than that all afternoon. As I said, it was sort of 16 points of difference approaching time on in the final term. And then St Kevin's, as we know they can do, just went whack.
Yeah, but this is what we say about St Kevin's. You know, in seasons gone by, probably would have been a 3-goal win for St Kevin's. Just see it out. No risk. Just make sure you bank the 4 points. They've got the firepower to go in for the kill now against just about any team in the competition. And we've seen that. They've done that a couple of times now against Old Haileybury. Got a massive win against them at Princes Park earlier this season. They've pulled away from them in the last term here. They can do this to anyone in the league. They've got the capacity up forward to do it.
It's a lot of scoring shots too. That's 38 scoring shots. And we don't know about out of bounds on the full and things like that as well. So that's a lot of entries. That's a lot of conversion. And admittedly, they're undermanned in forward half at the moment too. So that's encouraging. I do like the way they're consistently kicking over 100 points. To win finals, you need to kick big scores sometimes.
Yeah, and credit to Anthony Lynch and Luke Marnie, who's joined the program this year. They've definitely had a focus on stacking their forward line. Or they've got the likes of Jack Benk that has come in, Doug Kerr earlier in the season from the school. They can throw Ethan Phillips forward, they now know. They've got Sam Tucker there as well. There's a couple more that are in the mix as well at any given point in time. Like, they are absolutely stacked for options. So from the Bloods' perspective, in the end, that game got away from them, and that defeat's dropped them back into the drop zone for the first time since round 11. Suddenly, they're favourites to finish 9th, I think, and face relegation just as quickly as that. And on the horizon, their blockbuster final round visit to the Blacks at Melbourne Uni, that may well decide that final game who stays up and who goes down. Now, the reason I say the Blacks are favoured to survive over the Bloods at this point is purely just because of the relative strength of schedule, how hard their relative runs home are. Doesn't always play out this way, of course. Upsets will happen in the last few weeks of the year. But the Blacks have got Old Trinity and Old Scotch in the next fortnight. Old Haileybury have got Old Brighton and Old Zabs. So much harder games. Not to say they can't win one of those games and not to say that Blacks lose the other two. It's quite possible. But if you were framing a market right now, you'd have to say that the Bloods have the harder run home than the Blacks do.
Well, the Bloods have been on the other side of the glass last year. The penultimate weekend of the season, they went out to St Bernard's. Old Haileybury were fourth. St Bernard's were in the relegation zone. The Snow Dogs beat them by about 80 points. So it can definitely, you can definitely get some real shocks at the back end of the season.
What concerns me for Haileybury is they'll lose players next weekend back to VFL. They have a lot of Sandy guys there, and it was a bye on the weekend, so that may affect those couple of games, but they might get them all back that last round.
Yeah, correct. There's only 1 week left of VFL, so when it comes to that last game of the year, which they may have to win, they might be able to load up all those blokes and have the Stephanakis types and whatever else come back in and get them to safety. Who knows? St Kevin's, they've safely qualified. This is an incredible achievement, Hugo. You know better than the two of us how difficult this is. 8 consecutive William Buck Premier Men's Final Series now. 8 in a row. That is an incredible, sustained excellence for a team, given it's only a top 4.
No, exactly. And if you think about the changing the guard over that time, that's not one group of players. And we see how different the side is this year. So that's a credit to the football program, a credit to the coaches, a credit to the club to be able to just consistently get together a good group. Train the group in the right way and we've seen some really strong competitions over the last years as well. I mean, it's been amazing. So it's a credit to the place, and no better coach. Well, he's one of the best coaches in the competition, Plugger. They're all great coaches, but he seems to be able to find different ways all the time.
He's as good as anyone.
Correct.
There you go. That's a diplomatic way of saying it. So they're still in the top 200 as well. If they can beat Zabs, Matty at Toorak Park this weekend, which you guys I know are both pumped to be at, it's going to be our SEN match of the day. They'll join the Zabs on 12 wins, and that race for second spot really steps up again.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously percentage to factor into it as well. They'd need to win by enough with St Kevin's, but this could well be, I mean, we've said this a couple of times, this could be a grand final preview, and we may even be fortunate enough to see these teams face off against each other in September later on in the campaign.
You think so somewhere.
You'd
think
hope
so. Somewhere they'll face each other.
No, these two, and I feel like internally St Kevin's have been gearing themselves up for this particular one for a little while now.
What did Anthony Lynch have to say? Because in the end it ends up being an 8-goal win, but they had to work for it.
Yeah, no, he said Old Haileybury started well and they were on the back foot at quarter time. So St Kevin's had some problem solving that they needed to navigate their way through. They were able to reset themselves at that quarter time break. They wrestled the momentum back. And even though they were still behind on the scoreboard at halftime, they felt like they were in a much better position to really take the game to the Bloods. And they kicked 14 goals in the second half, which is, that in a game is going to win you the match more often than not. To do it in a half gives them real momentum heading into this game.
Guy Martin, an experienced campaigner, he's not going to panic. He knows what his team has to do now. They are in the drop zone, so now you've got to become aggressive. You've got to become the hunters. What did he have to say after this one?
Yeah, it's an interesting game. They were really pleased with their first half, going in up at half-time by 15 points. Well aware Scob weren't at full strength, but they knew that they would be coming as well. But no side's full strength at this stage of the season.
Yeah, Haileybury have had their outs as well.
Yeah, exactly. But unfortunately, it was a different game after half-time. They lifted their intensity and pressure, probably didn't handle that as well, and they lost a couple of important players to injury, which also doesn't help, including Jack Bell. So that's a big thing. Like Jack, one of the better ruckmans in the competition, up probably against one of the best ruckmans in the competition.
And we've spoken about the importance of Bell and Finlay being able to work as a tandem. So you take one of those two out, the other one's got a ruck, and suddenly you lose the big body forward, which has been a problem for Haileybury all year.
And then he said, ultimately, Scob just took control after that. The third quarter was particularly telling. He said they really got on top in the midfield, being St Kevin's, and that we struggled to get our hands on the footy. And when we did win it back, we turned it over too easily. So we're starting to see that now, that pattern. And I thought the midfield battle had been pretty even, if not slightly in their favour during the first half. So their ability to turn that around was probably the biggest difference of the game. He was happy with the way they fought it out reasonably well, and some positives. You mentioned Hugo Noziara, Brady Seckle, Locke Riley, all had some good moments through the midfield, but ultimately they beat them by a better side. So he said 3 really important games remaining, and they know what they have to do to win at least one of those in there.
Yeah.
And for Scob, they're going to take some... This is great. I love this little passage from him. So Scob are really going to take some beating come finals time, particularly when they get all their players back. It looks like it's going to be a really interesting top 4 final series. I think any one of those sides can beat each other on their day, which should make September pretty entertaining, which I think it will.
Agreed. I don't think there's an obvious... I mean, Uni Blues, you could say, at the moment, they sit a game clear and we'll run through the ladder now, but I think on any given day, any of those teams can knock off the others, and you can certainly mount an argument for all of them. And we saw Brighton, who are sitting fourth at the moment against the number one team on the weekend, had them on the ropes for quite a while. So it's the Blues on 52. They're one game clear of Zabs on 48. Then St Kevin's on 44. But as we mentioned, Zabs and St Kevin's play each other this coming week. So that's the critical game that will likely decide the top two. If Zabs win it, they go 2 games clear plus percentage with 2 to go. Old Brighton sit on 36 points. So they're 2 games behind St Kevin's now. So more than likely they'll finish fourth. The real interest in the battle is probably more so the top 3. Scotch now are sitting 3 games out plus percentage with 3 to play. They're in 5th. But here's where it gets interesting. There's only 1 game between 5th and 9th. Scotch on 24, Caulfield 22, Trinity 22, Blacks 20, Haileybury 20, and then 2 games back to Bernards on 12.
Absolutely incredible that we've got 6 teams still fighting for relegation, and St Bernard's still unlikely, but still they're not going away. They're mathematically a chance of performing the Great Escape for the second year running. I think the battles at both ends of the table are absolutely outstanding. I honestly at this point couldn't pick between Blues, Zabs and St Kevin's. You'd probably have Blues as the premiership favourites.
You think Brighton are a tier below?
I do think so, just based on what we saw at the weekend.
Do they have the capacity? Do they have the ceiling to find it again, and particularly if they get all those blokes back and up to full speed? Because as Marcel says every year, you can't just come, even though you get the names back, they're not the same guys for at least 2 or 3 weeks before they get the miles in their legs again.
I saw passages in the last 2 weeks of Brighton, but it wasn't consistent over the 4 quarters like it normally is, and that's due to the players that are there and being slightly underdone. Like we saw Felix Lockhart on the weekend, who probably didn't have the impact he usually does. Once they get that, and we've got time, so we've got 3 weeks, and they're definitely playing finals. I mean, something ridiculous would have to happen for not. So they know they are. Their best is still up there as well.
Yeah. I like to reward body of work, and I think the Blues' body of work over a long period of time has been really consistent. And Brighton, they're still getting players back and still trying to find their feet. So they've for me, they've got to earn that right to be right up there with the 3, whereas the other 3 have been rock solid pretty much right throughout the season. They have been a bit of a rung below, but there is still time for them to pick up some ground.
One player who has played 3 games now, got some miles into his legs and was in the best plays in the reserves on the weekend, Sam Flockhart.
What a great story. What a great story that this is to have him back.
He can't be far away then, Hugo.
No.
I leaned over the balcony to Soupy when Sam kicked a fantastic goal, and I said, next week? He goes, yeah, maybe. He didn't give me a yes or a no, but, geez, he looked, I think he looks ready. It's just how much will you protect him? Sometimes you have to protect players from themselves. You need to get that, because it won't be the knee. That knee will be the strongest part of his body, but you're thinking of the... Knees always generate a hamstring for some reason.
Yeah, well, everything's a bit... The biomechanics are slightly different. You can do a hammy, you can do a calf, you can,
Well, you need to build up that strength and that body of work.
Yeah.
Some players sometimes use part of the hamstring to form the tendon for the knee, so it can be a little weak. I'm not a medical expert, but that might be part of it as well. But there's probably also the mental part of it as well, really getting out there in the competition. He's probably ticked off one box in getting through a series of games, but there's getting through games and then there's getting through games.
One thing, he hasn't got any shorter.
Yeah, and there's some upside there for Brighton as well, so I certainly wouldn't be writing him off at this time of the year. That is Premier Men's done for this week. Coming up next, the craziness, the madness of Premier B Men's. That's next on For the Love of the Game.
Footy finals are almost here, and there's no better way to kick them off than at the 2026 William Buck VAFA Finals Luncheon. Join MC Nat Edwards, AFL legends and Brownlow medalists James Hurd and Jimmy Bartel, plus Jason Bennett and the VAFA media team for a live For the Love of the Game finals preview. Friday, September 4th at the RACV City Club. Enjoy a premium 2-course lunch, beverage package and an unforgettable afternoon of football stories and finals insights. Book your tickets now at vafa.com.au. Don't miss out on one of the biggest events on the VAFA calendar.
Time to talk Premier B with our expert. How'd your tips go this week?
I've got no idea, Jace.
Oh, well,
honestly,
we're about to find out.
Okay,
it was
good.
Premier B Showcase round. It was fantastic to see all 5 games live and free on VAFA TV. Now, great thanks to MySport Live for making that happen. Great opportunity to showcase what is a wonderful competition, Hugo. Those teams don't get a lot of broadcast time throughout the year, so for MySport Live to step up and make that happen is wonderful.
No, it's excellent. They did a great job, and what a great competition it is, though. Results week in, week out, just throw. It's very watchable.
No, and nothing surprises you.
No.
If you expect the close games, and then when you get a blowout one way or the other, you just go, I didn't see that coming, but at the same time, I'm not surprised because anything can happen in these games. They can be any result anyone except for Collegians. That's always the asterisk we
Yeah,
put in this
yes,
segment.
yes.
They win every week. Other than that, and anything's possible. Where do you want to start? In fact, let's start with one such upset.
Yeah, let's do that. At Waverley Oval, because this was second against last coming into the day. Williamstown CYMS against De La Salle. And the CYs kept their survival aspirations alive with a 5-point come-from-behind win against De La at the weekend. There was a definite breeze and they were trailing at three-quarter time, the Seaways, but they found a way to overcome an 8-point deficit to win 13-8, 86 to 12-9, 81. Harrison Miller proved to be the hero for the Seawise. His goal at the 22-minute mark of the final term, the last goal of the match and the ultimate winner. It was a very nervy time-on period, given that was only the 22nd minute of the final
Did
term.
Seawise have the breeze, or were they into the breeze?
No,
in the
they
last
were
quarter?
kicking
had
with the breeze. They had the advantage.
How far down were they at three-quarter time?
They were 8 points behind.
Okay.
So D-La did reasonably well to keep them at bay for as long as they did. But great credit to Contazoglu and his men. The win lifts the Seawise up to ninth spot. They're a game away from safety with 3 to play. A couple of other results went against them, which we'll get to a little later on. D-La, this is remarkable. And this is a bit of foreshadowing for what's to come. They didn't move. They went into the second spot. They're still in second spot. So it gives you a bit of an idea on what's to come. So that's a big result for Seawise. They're still alive.
Yeah, no, fortunate. It's weird because of the weird way it worked. The teams immediately below them lost, and unfortunately for Williamstown, the teams immediately above them won. So they sort of didn't get full bang for the buck. Did Willie, and also D-La weren't hurt as badly as they could have been.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely crazy that you can be second on the ladder, suffer a defeat, and not fall. But that's how it happened
in a comp
Prem
as tight
B.
as this.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest shock of the round for me when I looked at the results, I couldn't believe my eyes, and I turned the game on to have a look and watch it for myself. Old Carey and Old Melburnians. We went into this game knowing these two are maybe the two most unpredictable teams in Premier B this year. Their best footy's been great. Their worst footy's been horrible. But I did not see this coming.
No, you'd have done well to tip an upset. You'd have done very well to tip an upset of this magnitude. Old Carey keeping itself above the drop zone with arguably its best performance of the season. They defeated Old Melburnians by 82 points. Don't think anyone would have predicted that heading into the game. The Panthers kicked 7 goals to 1 in the opening term. They set the tone right out of the gates, and they were rarely troubled in the end. 21-10, 136 to 7-12, 54. Charlie Grummett, who no doubt we'll get to in Tunwatch a little later on, 9 goals for him. Season high, just terrorised the OM's defence all afternoon. The Panthers, as we sort of touched on, they're a game clear of the drop zone. They're still 4 points clear of Williamstown, CYMS at the moment. The OMs, they remain in third spot. The percentage took a bit of a beating, though. They lost 7% over the course of the result.
They've got Old Ivanhoe this week to OMs. Then they've got Collegians and Willie CYMS. So they've got a pretty good run home. They've got the bottom 2 teams plus the top team. They currently sit third at the moment, 1 game ahead of Beau Morris. So if they take care of business in the 2 games that they should win, and then they probably don't beat Collegians, just based on, they might, but just based on what we've seen throughout the year, you wouldn't put that one down as a win at this point. Are those 2 wins enough to get them there? Look, maybe. It's maybe, isn't it? It depends on what else is around them because they're one of a bunch of teams, 6 teams separated by a game.
Yeah, and percentage is going to come into it. And compared to the teams around them, their percentage isn't the strongest. So that's going to count against them.
Belted by 82 points.
No. But there are a couple of teams who have suffered some heavy percentage blows over the course of the weekend. So that may factor into it. But for now, still in third spot, still their fate very much in their own hands with 3 to play. Speaking of Old Ivanhoe, you just mentioned them. They played against Old Geelong, the OGs, a blistering final term.
It was a great game of footy, this. This one was offset because it started at 2:50, so you could watch all the other games and then still see basically the second half of this game. Gee, it was a good game. It was pretty spirited and fiery.
Oh, terrific contest. Just what you want and pretty indicative of how Prem B has played out all season. Just 1 point in it at three-quarter time, the late kickoff match, as you mentioned, Jace. But a 5-goal final term from the OGs proved decisive. 14-11-95 to 9-12-66. Leading goal kicker Tom Gorell. We've sung his praises all season. He kicked another 6 for the OGs. Takes his tally for the season up to 57 goals. 19 clear of anyone else. You think he's just about safe in the race for the leading goal kicker there. Rowan McKenzie did his best for the Hoers. He booted 3. The OGs remain in 7th place just because teams around them and above them won. But they're just 1 win outside the top 4 still with 3 to go.
And you look at their form. Like if you go all the way back to round 7, Hugo, they lost to AJAX by 19 points. At that stage, I think AJAX was sitting second on the ladder. It wasn't terrible form from them. And at three-quarter time, it was a 5-point game. They then had that draw with Ivanhoe. They beat De La Salle. They beat Williamstown. They lost to Collegians, which again, you give them a pass. had a draw with Bowie, lost to Old Melburnians by 3 points, and then beat AJAX and Old Ivanhoe. Like, even though they're still potentially in the drop zone, their last 9 or 10 weeks of footy have been very good.
Yeah, the first half of the season was where it hurt them. They were in the bottom two for a lot of that. But since then, Nick Dixon and his men have really got things going. And for Old Ivanhoe, though, this is quite remarkable. We've concluded round 15, the first team to be officially ruled out of the finals race. Yeah. Old Ivanhoe was taken for round 15.
Isn't that incredible?
To get to that point.
Finally.
The other 9 teams are all still mathematically alive.
Yep.
Which is amazing. Bowie and AJAX, the last Premier C grand final of last year. Those two teams met again down at Bowie.
No, it
was at AJAX, wasn't it?
Trevor Barker Beach.
Oh, was it?
Yep.
Trevor Barker.
Yeah, it was at Trevor Barker Beach. And this encounter was really close the last time these two teams played. Not the case this time around. Bo Morris defeating AJAX by 53 points. It was only 2 points earlier in the season to the Jackers. Bo Morris flipped the script around this time, and how. 15-10-100 to 6-11-47. The Jackers goalless to half-time.
That's interesting because that would have been wind affected and heavily wind affected because we were at Brighton Beach Oval, heavily wind affected. So it would have been going sort of down that down the Frankston into the ground, I suppose you'd say. So to not kick a goal with that, that's something to look at there. Yeah, no, it's a bit of a concern for Lachie Buzzard.
Do you reckon this result said more about Bo Morris or AJAX?
I think it said more about AJAX because I think Bo Morris, despite their record this season, have played better than what that's reflected. But AJAX have been in the top 4 pretty much all season.
Yeah. Did they overachieve early?
I mean, they overachieved for a very long period of time. We're not talking like a month. We're talking, probably 2/3 of the season. So perhaps, but I thought it was a pretty reasonable sample size definitely for AJAX.
And look, maybe the season gets long on you, gets big on you. You're coming up from Prem C. That's a possibility as well. I know they've lost some players in the middle part of the season. So, I mean, they're still very much in the mix. They just have to find a way to now regain their mojo in a hurry.
There's still only one win outside the top 4 with 3 to go.
The season's still well and truly alive. They've just got to flick the switch somehow.
The Sharks have won less than half of their games this season, yet sit in the top half of the ladder.
Yeah.
They've won 6 out of 15 games, and they sit 5th. A win outside the top 4, and one of the healthiest percentages across the entire Prem B competition.
Well, DLR sits second with 8 and 7. Would there be any other team sitting second in the world with basically just slightly better than 50% win ratio? That's ridiculous. That shows you how close this competition is.
Crazy, isn't it? The final game of the weekend, the one lock that you can have every week. Collegians got it done against Old Camberwell by 83 points.
It's the only reason I ever get any tips in Prem B because I just keep going. Collegians at 16-12, 108 to 3, 7 and 25. Again, like Bo Morris, Collegians kept the Wellers goalless in the first half. And again, this is another example of Collegians coming up against a team that had actually been in pretty good form. And that's one thing that they've done a lot just by misfortune and by virtue of the fixture Collegians. They've come up against informed teams a lot this season. Just consistently swept them aside. The goals were shared around. Alex Lukic, he's come back into the fold. He kicked a bag last week. He kicked another 4 today. Hugh Johnson kicked 3. The Lions are now 7 games clear of anybody else in Prem B. Remarkable given the season's only 18 games long. The Wellers, they're still in 4th. So 3 of the top 4 lost this weekend, except for Collegians. They've suffered a hit of 9%, the Wellers, but they've not moved.
And then you look at the bottom section of the draw. Williamstown were 9th, they won. Old Carey were 8th, they won. Old Geelong were 7th, they won.
Yep.
So all the bottom teams won and all the top teams lost.
That's Prem B for you. Just expect the unexpected.
Let's run through the ladder because Collegians, as you mentioned, sit at 15 and zip. They're 60 on 60 points, but it's from there that it gets really interesting. The next 6 teams separated by just 1 game. The next 7 teams separated by 2 games.
Yeah, 2nd to 7th, 4 points separating them. And I tell you what, there's not a lot to split them in terms of percentage either. Lots in the 90s or the low 100s. So Dealer, Old Melburnians and Old Camberwell, each sharing an 8 and 7 record. 1 game behind them, Bo Morris, who have won 6 out of their 15 matches. There's 2 draws in there, which help also. Then you've got AJAX, who are on a 7 and 8 record. And then Old Geelong, who have an identical record to Bo Morris, 6 wins, 7 defeats, 2 draws. So AJAX have won more games than Bo Morris, yet sit behind them on the ladder. That's Prem B for you. 1 game behind those 3 sit Old Carey with a 6 and 9 record and a massive percentage boost for them. That's sure to come in handy at season's end. And then behind them by 1 game, Williamstown CYMS, with a 5-10 record, still mathematically in the hunt for finals with 3 to play, although realistically it's going to be a long shot given they've got to play Collegians this week. And then Old Ivanhoe, the only team we can officially rule out of the finals race with 3 wins and 2 draws to their name.
So Willie, a 1 game plus 18.5% out of safety with 3 to play. And then in the other direction, you've got Beaumaris, AJAX and Old Geelong all outside by a game. But percentage-wise, they've all got a better percentage than Old Camberwell. So literally it is just that 1 game. So very important for them. They've also got a better percentage than Old Melburnians. And in the case of Beaumaris, they've even got a better percentage than De La Salle. So it's going to be so tight because it's not just about the top teams at the moment. The teams that are a game ahead of the others actually have worse percentages. So it is going to be fascinating. That is Premier B for this week. After the break, we'll turn our attention to Premier C men's on For the Love of the Game. Looking for VAFA updates on the go? Download the brand new VAFA app today. Get live scores, fixtures, ladders, and all the latest VAFA news right at your fingertips. Whether you're a player, supporter, or just love local footy, the VAFA app keeps you in the game. Search VAFA in your app store and download it now. Time now to talk Premier C men's. It was round 15 of action, 3 weeks to go after this one as well. And it was Mazenod, 12-12-84, defeating Ormond 7-13-55 by 29 points. Big win for Fitzroy, 19-11-125, defeated Pegs 4-7-31 by 94 points. Hampton Rovers, having a very, very good season, 15-11-101, defeated Marcellin 9-5-59 by 42 points. And then a thriller. Glenora Old McKinnon, 10-9-69, 1 point winners over Old Peninsula, 9-14-68 at Packer Park, a 1 point game there. And the final game of the round in Premier C, Parkdale over St Bede's Mentone Tigers, good win for the Vultures, 9-13-67 over St Bede's Mentone Tigers, 6-16-52, 15 points at Jerry Green Reserve. One of those great rivalry games that we have going this year in Premier C. That would have been a spirited encounter without question. Let's check the ladder, shall we, after 15 rounds of Premier C action. Fitzroy are a game clear. They're on 56 points. 1 game clear of Parkdale Vultures on 52. Another game back to Hampton in third on 48. And then another game back to Mazenod on 44. St Bede's Mentone Tigers now 2 games off the pace with 3 to play. So the top 4 starting to take shape in Premier C men. St Bede's Mentone Tigers some work to do. They're on 36. But they are well clear. They cannot be relegated, so they can only look upwards. They're safe on the way down. However, the bottom 5 teams are not safe. They are all in the relegation race. So you've got your top 4 at the moment standing out. You've got St Bede's in the middle in limbo, needing to try to get up. And then you've got Pegs on 16, Glenira Old McKinnon on 16, Marcellin on 12, Old Peninsula in 9th on 12, and Ormond on 8. So you've got 2 games separating 6th and 10th.
Gee.
It's some very nervous nights ahead for coaches and players.
Absolutely. You need to put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
Best side on the park, you'd be ringing players who aren't turning up at training. There'll be a lot of things going on behind the scenes.
So that's Premier C. Let's talk divisional men's footy. Matty, let's start with Division 1.
Yeah, let's.
So this is round 16, isn't it? They're a week ahead, so it's only 2 weeks to go after this.
Yeah, only a fortnight left, and not a lot of thrillers this weekend, it's fair to say, in Div 1. Preston Bull Ants at Fresson Oval, big win over Monash Blues.
Henry Stratford Brown, we'll talk about later.
Yes, 19-22, 136 to 7-4-46, so 90-point win for the Bull Ants, and it could have been a lot bigger than that even. St Mary Salesian at home, too good for old Yarra Cobras, 17-10, 112 to 9-10-64. The closest result of the weekend was Paran, who got a 20-point win over Parkside, 9-12-66 to 6-10-46. Oakley, big winners over UHSVU, 18-18, 126 to 8-6-54. And speaking of big wins, the biggest result of the round, Kew against Brunswick, 33 goals, 20, 218 to 5-7-47, a 181-point win for Kew, a handy percentage booster to say the least. As we look at the ladder now...
That's the thing, Kew is second and Brunswick is 7th. So it's not like it's top versus bottom, that result either. So I'm wondering whether or not Brunswick had a few outs.
There's every possibility, although there's a big chasm in percentage looking at the ladder, which we'll turn to now. Preston Bull Ants still way out in front, 15 15-1 record for them. Q have moved up to second and sitting at nearly 200% as well for what it's worth. 12-4 record. One game behind them, both Paran and Oakley Chargers sitting on 11 wins apiece. One game behind them are Parkside. So that Paran-Parkside match was a big one indeed. St Mary's Salesian sit 2 games away from Parkside. And then a game and a half behind them, Brunswick. And then the draws create a bit of a chasm there. So you've got Monash on 16 points, UHSVU on 10. Then Old Yarra Cobras still looking for their first win of the year.
Hugo, let's talk Div 2 men's, which has been ridiculously close all year.
And it remains that way, Jace, but a couple of big results. So Melbourne High went out to Aquinas College. Melbourne High 20-11-131, defeated Aquinas 10-16-76. Now at Canterbury Sports Ground, this is a big result here. Powerhouse 15-21-111, defeated Canterbury 9-15-69. So 42-point victory there.
And enough to jump them from 4th to 3rd.
Yeah,
so they're both on 44 now, but they've jumped over them, and that percentage boost helps as well.
There, yeah. Down at Elstonwick Park, so the Wickers back on the winning list. 13-23-101. It was always a problem goal kicking when I was there as well. Lots of points.
You've set the foundation.
I have.
Look what you've done. Still doing damage years later.
I know.
The Higginbotham legacy.
Yeah, it lives on. Defeated Terry Penola 9-4-58. And at Lindsay Hassett Oval, South Melbourne 16-18-114, defeated North Brunswick 10-4-64. And
that's a big result too, because that was 8th versus 9th. So in terms of relegation now, South Melbourne kick a game clear.
So that might be telling, that one. And in the close one for the weekend, well, relatively, Whitefriars 13-6-84, defeated West Brunswick 7-9-51. As we turn to the ladder, which nice and tight up the top there. So Melbourne High out in front with 48 points at a nice percentage, just closely followed by Whitefriars on 48 points as well. And then it starts to get interesting behind that. So we've got Powerhouse, as we spoke about, on 44 points, but a massive percentage of 135. So that's a really good percentage boost they had there. And Canterbury sitting there on 44 points as well, rounding out the top 4. And then just nipping at their heels, the Wickers with 40 points and a healthy percentage of 128. So
better than Canterbury's percentage, yeah.
So that may come into play with the games moving forward. And then a little bit of a gap back on 28 points is West Brunswick, and a healthy percentage, which will help keep them up at that top end there. And then behind them, Terry Penola on 24. And then behind them, we've got South Melbourne at 20 points. So a really important win on the weekend, as we spoke about there. And then behind them, we've got North Brunswick 16 and Aquinas on 8. So the bottom two probably just starting to slip away a little bit there.
In Division 2 men's now, again, we're starting to see it. It's been so close, but it is starting to spread out. So we've got ourselves a clear top 5. West Brunswick in 6th can't really make it. They're 3 games plus, well, it's only 2 games left, so they definitely can't make it. So they can't make it, but they also can't be relegated. So now they sort of sit in the middle of the ladder, and they're in that limbo sort of twilight zone. But the top 5 down to Elstonwick, as we mentioned, a game outside, but with a superior percentage. So it's 5 into 4 in Division 2. And then at the bottom end of the table, it's probably, well, it's still technically 4, really, isn't it? Therry Penola, South Melbourne, North Brunswick and Aquinas in the battle for relegation right now, because Therry Penola aren't quite safe. They're 2 games clear plus 8%, but with still 2 games to play. So mathematically, they still could be relegated should results go against them, and they have a couple of bad weeks to finish the year. Let's talk Division 3 men's. Again, this is a reminder, this is the second last round. This is round 17, so only 1 week to play after this in Division 3 men's. Just the 2 games as per usual. Wattle Park, 10-10-70 over Richmond Central, 4-3-27 by 43 points. And a big win for the Hawks, 29-13-187. Hawthorn over Albert Park, 5-11-41. So the ladder there with 1 round to play is Wattle Park, well clear. They're well clear. They're 14 and zippers. We'll hear from Senchi later on undefeated. They are still rolling along. Hawthorn on 32, Richmond on 32, Latrobe 12, Albert Park on 4. That is men's divisional footy for this week. Well, gentlemen, we're heading towards September, heading towards finals time. And, of course, as we know in the VAFA, Matty, finals run over 6 different weeks. It's a rolling final series. Actually starts next week. So it's almost finals time, the best time of the year.
It absolutely is. This is the payoff for all the hard months during the course of the season. We get to the best of the best playing off against each other for the ultimate prize. So it's always an exciting time of the year.
Hugo, as a coach and a player, it's what you play footy for all year long, isn't it? The dream of making it to finals, and then maybe the magic will happen.
Yeah, it does. It's a little bit of reward for effort, but this is when the hard work starts as well. So you've gone through the hard part of the year. Now it's the hard part of the season, but it's exciting. And the grass seems a bit greener. Day seems a bit longer. People turn up at training because they want to be there, because they want a game. So it's an exciting part of the year.
Well, fantastic for everyone of us who are mad footy fans and love our footy finals. There's a new book out written by the great Toby Prime, sports journo and first-time author, called Famous Flags, Great Local Grand Finals. It's out now. The foreword's been written by Luke Beveridge. It's full of fantastic stories about local footy grand finals from over the years, all the great history, the mythology, the colour, the action, the emotion, the excitement. Joining us to talk about it is Toby Prime. G'day, Tobe.
G'day, Jace. Thanks for having me and thanks for the kind introduction.
Mate, thank you for joining us. As we say, we're mad keen local football fans at heart. What is it about local footy that's captured your imagination over the years?
Well, I guess it's always been a passion for, as I can remember, Jace, from when I was a kid. I enjoyed, I guess, all sports, but I remember going to local football following my two younger sisters playing netball at the time, and I always had an interest in news, so it just made sense to me as a kid to combine those two. And that took me into a sports journalism career, worked at different papers around the state and saw different games and leagues. And it just a random thought one night that it might be a good idea to collate some of those grand final stories into a book. So here we are.
How'd you go about choosing which games ended up in the book? Because it is a plethora of riches, isn't it? There's been so many wonderful, not only great games, but just great mythological stories over the years. Some great footy myths. Some of it's truth, some of it's fact, some of it's fiction. Where'd you start?
Yeah, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story, Jace. I wanted each of the stories to have something unique or distinct about them. They couldn't all be drought breakers, come from behind wins, upsets, whatever the occasion might be. And I think that's the beauty of local football, in that because it's mostly run by volunteers, that throws up some quirky results from time to time, which of course lends itself to good storytelling. So hopefully I was able to achieve that in the book. And I also wanted to cover initially every league in Victoria. I soon learnt, Jace, I think there's 40-odd leagues in Victoria.
A lot of work.
So I moved on from that idea pretty quickly, but I still wanted to cover as many parts of the state and as many parts of Melbourne as possible. And as I said, we landed on 14 chapters, and ranging from Mildura, Albury, Wodonga, 2 games from Geelong, 1 from Ballarat. There's probably a 50-50 split between regional and metro. And as I said, hopefully each chapter has something unique about them.
Toby, thanks for joining us. Great premise for a book. I'm sure there's a lot of great stories across all those leagues. And we've got a particular affinity for the VAFA, of course. Just from your perspective, is there a particular VAFA grand final that has stood out for you when putting this together?
There was, and there was a few on my short list. I can't recall the ones initially, but there was a handful. But the one that stood out and the one that I included was the unforgettable 2006 C-section grand final.
Yep.
St Bede's and AJAX. Your listeners, or the majority of your listeners, will be well familiar with that game. Probably still regarded as one of the best VAFA grand finals of all time.
It is, isn't it, Hugo? 20 years later, it's still legendary.
Oh, it stands out. It's an amazing effort, and a lot of relevance. Apparently, started the coaching career of Beveridge now, who's coaching the Bulldogs. So it's always, everything comes back to the VAFA, Jace.
Yeah. So, Tobe, for those who aren't as familiar with the game as we are, it was St Bede's Mentone Tigers against AJAX. The Tigers went down. I think they were 47 points down in the second quarter. Bevo was coaching. That was his first season coaching at the Tigers.
Yes.
And they threw the magnets around. And then tell us what happened in the second half, because it was just an astonishing game of football from every angle.
It was, Jace. I'll take it back to before the game. So Bevo still considers... so they'd gone through the home and away season undefeated. They lost the second semi to AJAX and found themselves in a prelim. And Bevo still considers the week leading into that prelim the most nervous time of his coaching career, which I still find hard to get my head around given what he's gone on to do the last 10 dozen years. they won their way through the prelim into the grand final, and Bevo was playing. He actually dropped a player for that prelim and played himself in the back line in that player's position. So probably felt some expectation and pressure to perform. And as you set the scene, they were 47 points down midway through the second quarter. And just an epic arm wrestle. St Bede's got it back to 22 points by half-time. I don't think they hit the front in the second half until late in the game, but AJAX got away to another, I think it was 17-point lead, and that's in the last quarter. And you would probably think that AJAX has it won by that time because St Bede's has made its run and AJAX has responded. But St Bede's kicked the last 3 goals of the game. Paul Groves, the AFLW Premiership coach for the Dogs in 2018, kicked the match-winning goal, and he holds the game as the highlight in his time in football above the AFLW flag. So both Luke and Paul hold similar sentiments to that game and what it continues to mean to them.
And it was like 138 to 137, wasn't it? Something like that. It was a 1-point margin in the end and a massive high-scoring shootout, which just had everything.
Had every element you could want, Jason, in a game of football. Controversy, some speculative umpiring decisions, high marks, had all the highlights. Bevo recalls late in the game, and obviously, you mentioned the final score, a 42-goal shootout. Trevor Barker Oval was so packed that the fans were scaling the scoreboard to get a view of the ground and the game. And Bevo was just hoping that, I hope that score is correct. Such was the drama, but he still recalls the feelings of elation and what that game, set up St Bede's and that historic three-peat, what it meant for his career.
Yeah, incredible. It was fiery as well early in the game. St Bede's lost their heads. They went the man, and that's how AJAX got 8 goals up, and then eventually they managed to clear their heads and turn it around and win this incredible game by a point. It changed the course of VAFA history, Hugo, of course. So St Bede's were in C grade at that time. They got promoted to B grade the next year. They won that premiership. They got promoted to A grade the following year. They won that premiership. Like, you think now, how on earth does a team go from C grade to B grade to A grade and win 3 flags in 3 years? It's something that may never, ever be done again.
No, it's extremely hard, Jace, to go up a division, win another flag, and then have to regroup again. And we know how strong the competition is. You look at collegians in B at the moment, they'll have to come to A. The sides that generally come up struggle. Most teams go back down the next year. To do it 3 in a row.
Yeah. And in the top
amazing.
3 tiers as well.
Yeah. It's quite an achievement.
Just staggering.
And actually, when I interviewed Luke for the book, he said that the clubs that went from C to B and then from B to A, both those clubs were relegated in the following season. And I fact-checked that, and it stands up.
Yeah, right.
So that just underlines how difficult and challenging that is going up, not just 2 grades, but 1 grade.
And the other thing was, it was different players each year. There was only a handful. I can't remember. We interviewed Bevo at the season launch this year, and I think he said it was like 7 or 8 players played in all 3
8, I think Jace played in all 3.
Yeah. So it wasn't like
I think 30...
They didn't just put this superstar team together in C grade and ride it all the way to the top. They kept building as they went. Incredible.
And that's the thing he recalls, because I asked him about that, like, the groups and the transient nature of local football. And, he was getting to pre-season not knowing if blokes were going to turn up, and it gets to February and you haven't heard from someone from the previous season. So all those challenges that every coach faced, Luke certainly faced as well.
The book is Famous Flags, Great Local Grand Finals by Toby Prime. Toby, where can we pick up the book? Where can we get it?
So it's just been released now, Jace. We launched it last month, available online. A simple Google search of Famous Flags, Great Local Grand Finals will inevitably, hopefully, lead you to a online bookseller. Otherwise, people can reach out to me, Jace, if you're happy for me to share my email address.
We will put the link on our socials, mate, and on our website. So for people that are coming through,
that sounds
they
good.
can click on our VAFA website and go straight through to Famous Flags, Great Local Grand Finals. Toby Prime, thanks so much for your time, mate. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Chase.
What a great idea for a book. So many great stories out there. I can't wait to read that.
Yeah, no, that's going to be fantastic. And I mean, the story of the St Bede's premiership was outstanding, but I'm sure that's only a taste of what's to come in that book. There's going to be a lot of similar grand final storylines.
20th anniversary this year, of course, of St Bede's doing that in Mentone Tigers doing that in 2006. As we said, it stands the test of time. Like, it's amazing to think now you could take a Prem C team right now and build it into a Premier A champion within the space of 2 years by going win, win, win. Incredible.
Like a lot of these stories, Jace, over time the legend builds too. So you can imagine the St Bede's people talking about that. There'd be a 20-year reunion for that too.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great to be together at that and just the stories, and those stories get bigger. It must have been a hard job for Toby to decipher through all these stories too.
Yeah.
With time, there'd
This
be a
might be
little
the
bit
first
of
of
a
many.
deviation.
This
Yeah.
might be the first of many versions of this book because there are so many great stories around, and even you just think through the VAFA and all the great grand finals and all the historic things that have happened over the years, over the course of more than a century of footy. You just think, geez, there's so many great ones out there. And the great thing about these are like stories like the VFL 1970 grand final, Carlton Collingwood. Right, it's a wonderful story, incredible story, maybe the greatest story in footy history, in folklore, but everyone kind of knows the story.
Yeah.
All of these stories, you're going to sit here and you're going to read this book and just be like, nah, this didn't happen. Like you go into it completely blind, not knowing, like, for example, the Ovens and Murray bloodbath grand final in 1990. I can't wait to read about what that actually was.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of those good stories. Every club's probably got one too.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a grand final where they can, knows the backstory, and there's always something. There's an unlucky player, or someone got in, or we were behind. It's just, it's great, and it's really highlights the time of year, Jace, coming into the finals.
Yep. Famous flags, great local grand finals from Toby Prime. We'll put the link on our socials and on the website. So if you're interested in getting a copy of it, do so. He's a great fella, Toby Prime, does great work, and we want to support people that are supporting local footy. Next up on For the Love of the Game, we're going to talk VAFA women's competition. That's next.
Footy finals are almost here, and there's no better way to kick them off than at the 2026 William Buck VAFA Finals Luncheon. Join MC Nat Edwards, AFL legends and Brownlow medalists James Hurd and Jimmy Bartel, plus Jason Bennett and the VAFA media team for a live For the Love of the Game finals preview. Friday, September 4th at the RACV City Club. Enjoy a premium 2-course lunch, beverage package and an unforgettable afternoon of football stories and finals insights. Book your tickets now at vafa.com.au. Don't miss out on one of the biggest events on the VAFA calendar.
It's time to talk VAFA women's footy here on For the Love of the Game. We're going to start with William Buck Premier Women's and the scores from round 15 with 3 rounds still remaining. Old Geelong just keep on rolling. They've got 4 wins in a row now. They're certainly picking up form at the right time. 9-7-61 defeated St Kevin's 2-3-15. A great win for the Ogettes. 46 points, the winners at Como Park. Q 3-6-24 defeated West Brunswick 2-2-14 by 10 points. Good win for Q. Caulfield Grammarians keep on keeping on. 11-9-75 defeated Fitzroy 1-1-7. 68-point win for the Fields. And a big win also for Scotch. 10-13-73 defeated Westbourne 2-1-13 by 60 points. Old Brighton had the bye in William Buck Premier Women's, and we take a quick look at the ladder with 3 rounds to play. Old Scotch sit top of the table, and what a battle this is going to be come September. 2 teams on 48 points. They're well out in front of the rest of the field. Old Scotch with a percentage of 400. Caulfield also on 48 with a percentage of 395.96. There's 4% between them. Isn't that unbelievable?
Amazing.
They've lost 1 game combined for the entire year, and one of them's on 400% and the other one's on 395.95. Fair to say there's not much separating those 2 teams.
I think so.
I think there are pace setters.
They play next week, actually, incidentally, so that will probably determine who wins the minor premiership. So those 2 are on 48. They're well clear of Old Brighton, who are in 3rd on 28 points. Now, the way this system works, obviously, everyone's played a different amount of games. So Old Brighton sit 3rd on match ratio, followed by Q in 4th. Old Geelong are now 5th after this winning run that they're on. West Brunswick are 6th. Fitzroy are 7th. St Kevin's are 8th. And Westbourne Grammarians bring up the field in William Buck Premier Men's in 9th spot. Let's talk divisional footy. Oh, sorry, we'll talk Premier B women's first.
Yeah, we'll do that first. And some really important results here with now with 1 game to go in the home and away season. Start with the Old Yarra Cobras, who were too good for Glenara. Old McKinnon, 3-10-28 to 139. Port Melbourne Chargers. Essentially, we might touch on this a little later on. 8-6-54 defeated Beau Morris.
Wow, okay.
2-4-16. Beau Morris's first loss of the season.
And that's a big win too.
Huge result for the Chargers, not just in terms of the result itself, but the margin as well. 38 points. Parkside against Old Melburnians. Old Melburnians just holding on for a 5-point win. 10-4-64, plays 9-5-59. That's costly for Parkside, which we'll get to when we look at the ladder in a moment. And then Old Zavarians against Williamstown CYMS. This was a huge result result because it sets things up very nicely for the last weekend of the season. The Zavs winning by 3 points, 4-3-27 to 3-6-24. As we look at the ladder now, Beaumaris still well out in front. Minor premiership is in no danger for them. They are 4 games clear of Old Melburnians, who sit in second at the moment. Port Melbourne Chargers have moved up to third spot with a win, a game clear of both Williamstown and Old Zavarians. Get this, gents, both with 7 wins to their name, separated at this stage by 1.8% with 1 game to play. Parkside...
In which positions?
4th and 5th.
Oh,
yep. So this, in terms of how it looks this week, Williamstown play Old Yarra Cobras, who at the moment are 8th on the ladder. And then for Zavarians, they play Glen Ira Old McKinnon. So, if both win and Old Zavs win by more, it'll come down to margin. If both lose, unless you lose by, you wouldn't want to be kicking too many points this week, Hugo. This is the week to fill your boots.
Yes.
Mathematically speaking, Parkside is still only 1 game away from those 2 and could, in theory, make the top 4, but with a percentage gap of 33 to make up for it. Practically unlikely. Yep. Glen Ira, Old McKinnon are 2 games behind Parkside, as are Old Yarra Cobras. They're both on 4 wins apiece.
Let's talk divisional footy, Division 1.
So, Powerhouse, 8-6-54, defeated La Trobe University 1-5-11. And now a big result out here. Whitefriars, 6-9-45, defeated Oakley, who failed to score. And then Monash Blues, 8-3-51, defeated Marcelin 5-5-35. And then Ormond, 7-5-47, defeated Old Carey 2-2-14. As we go to the ladder, top 4 is basically set here because we've only got 1 game to go, as we said before. So, Ormond on 48, outright leaders, and then Powerhouse and Marcelin both on 44, but a big percentage separation between them, like 100. So that'd be a big weekend to make that one up. And then rounding out the 4, we've got Monash with a nice percentage, 130. And then just outside, Whitefriars on 28, Old Carey on 20, Oakley on 10, and then La Trobe on 8. So that's rounding that one out. But the top 4 is set there.
Yep. Division 2 women's, which has been so tight all year. No upsets at all this week. The top teams on the ladder won and beat the lower ranked teams in all games. Richmond Central, who sit top of the table, they were 3-8-26, defeated UHHVU 2-7-19 by 7 points. Good win for St Mary's Salesian as they look to solidify themselves inside the top 4. 10-5-65, defeated Beaumaris 5-4-34 by 31 points. De La Salle with an important win as well. They sit second on the ladder. They're 7-12-54, defeated MCC 1-4-10 by 44 points. And Old Camberwell over Hampton Rovers by 23 points, 6-5-41 to 2-6-18. The ladder is Richmond Central on 44. De La, again, match ratios here. So Richmond Central, De La, St Mary's Salesian and Old Camberwell are your top 4. 2 games clear, really, of Beaumaris in 5th. So the top 4 in this one also looking pretty settled. Then MCC, UHSVU and Hampton Rovers. That is Div 2 for the week.
And then moving towards Div 3, no surprises here. Either the top 3 beating the bottom 3, although the closest game was between Hawthorn and Paranka Legions, the 2 blue lines. Hawthorn 5-8-38, Paranka Legions 5-3-33. Hawthorn kicking the winning goal with just under 3 minutes to go on the match to get the 5-point win there. Old Haileybury too good at Glen Hutley Park against Caulfield Grammarians. 8-5-53 plays 2-4-16. And Parkdale Vultures getting the job done against Old Yarra Cobras. 4-4-28 plays 1-5-11. And as we look at the ladder now with 1 game to go in the home and away season, we still have a 3-way tie for top spot. Parkdale, Old Haileybury and Hawthorn all level on 12 wins. Unfortunately, gentlemen, none of them are playing each other this week. So we have no shootouts there. Paran, 4 games behind them, and then 5 games behind them remain Caulfield and Old Yarra Cobras with 1 win to their name. In terms of the fixtures this week, Parkdale hosts Caulfield, Paranka Legions up against Old Haileybury, and Hawthorn host Old Yarra Cobras. So unfortunately, we don't get any of those final game shootouts. The top 3 is pretty well locked away, and there's big percentage gaps between the 3 of them. So it would take an upset for anything to change there.
Div 4, so some tight ones here. So Aquinas 2-3-15, defeated Brunswick 1-4-10. Mazenod 3-7-25, defeated Canterbury 3-1-19. And then Wattle Park 3-3-21, defeated Fitzroy Senior Women's, who failed to score. And North Brunswick 3-11-29, defeated Old Zavs 0-3, 3 points. And then Melbourne Uni, the Muggers 3-2-20, didn't get the job done at home. Albert Park got that one 5-4-34. As we go to the ladder, a little bit to play out here in this one. So at the moment, we've got Mazenod on 44 points outright first. Then we've got Aquinas and Wattle Park both on 40 points, but that's a big percentage difference between them. It's about 100 points. And then we've got Zabs on 36, sitting fourth with a percentage of 143. So still could get up into third, but the top four basically set. And then we've got Canterbury on 28, Muggers on 28, Albert Park on 26, Brunswick on 26, North Brunswick on 20, and then Fitzroy on 16 in a 10-team comp.
Yeah, and so you look at that and you think, all those teams that are sort of sitting in sort of last, second last, and they've had 26 points, 20 points. Like that's a very competitive division, isn't it? Division 4 women's. Like even the teams that are down the bottom of the ladder have been winning games this year. Like it's a very even comp. There were some big margins in Division 5 women's over the weekend. Ormond, 13-11-89, defeated West Brunswick, who didn't score. So 89-point win there for the Monders. Big win also top versus bottom. Preston Bullants, 10-18-78, defeated De La Salle, one behind. Glenara, Old McKinnon, a big win over Old Monash. These are two teams that were right next to each other, 8th and 9th on the ladder. The Griffins, 7-8-50, defeated Monash, two behinds. Close one at Warwick Armstrong Oval down in South Melbourne, and it was the Wicks 2-5-17 over South Melbourne 2-1-13. Really important game, that one. The Wicks consolidate their grip on third spot, and West Brunswick now sitting on the outside looking in. That was a huge win for Elstonwick, and the final game of the weekend, St Kevin's 7-10-52 defeated Parkside, one straight goal. So Preston Bullants lead Division 5 women's. They're on 48 points. St Kevin's on 42. Elstonwick in third on 36. Then two teams, Ormond and West Brunswick, on 32 points each, entering the final round of the competition. You've got then South Melbourne and Parkside. So South Melbourne are on 28, so they're one game behind, but massive percentage, so they're no chance of breaking up into the top four in the final round. But it will get interesting between Ormond and West Brunswick. I'll mention them in a moment. Glenara, Old McKinnon on 16, Monash on 8, and De-La on 4. And when you look at the final round, we look at those two teams. Ormond, whose percentage is 246.7, West Brunswick 111.1. So percentage isn't going to be a factor here. West Brunswick will need to win and Ormond will need to lose. That's the only way the Magpies will get in. Now, West Brunswick play Elstonwick, who are third. So that's going to be a difficult game, but still a very winnable game. Ormond, who sit fourth, play Glenara, Old McKinnon, who are in 8th. So you'd think the Monders are in the box seat at the moment. If both teams win, the Monders make it. Both teams lose, the Monders make it. The only way they don't is if they lose and the Magpies win. But it's possible.
No, anything
can happen in the final round pressure.
Yep, and you're not there until you're there.
Exactly right. So we'll wrap up all of that stuff for you next week. And as I say, divisional footy, we're going to be in the finals next week. It's going to be very exciting. That wraps up our VAFA women's wrap for this week. Next up on For the Love of the Game, we'll talk Holmesglen Under 19 Premier with Senchi and Lachie. That's next. Keep up to date with everything that's happening around the VAFA by subscribing to our socials. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Has someone just taken a screamer or kicked goal of the year? Send us your best and we might share them around the league. Join in the fun with all the best pics, videos, stories and reels from around the competition. They're all on VAFA socials. Search VAFA and VAFA Women's on your favourite platforms. This is For the Love of the Game. It is time to talk Holmesglen Under 19 Premier. And a man who knows no introduction, so I won't give him one. Senchi!
It's good to be here another week.
Oh, of course it is for you. Look at you grinning like a Cheshire cat as we welcome in our Under 19 Premier reporter, our Holmesglen Under 19 Premier reporter, LACHIE MOIR. G'day, LACHIE.
G'day, lads. Just still licking the wounds off the on the weekend.
Very brave and noble of you. Very gallant for you to put your body on the line for the team and turn up today because Senchi just alerted us to the fact on socials across the weekend that the tipping was a little one-sided this week. One Sentinel picked 5 out of 5, while Lachie just the 1. You guys went your own ways last week, and, well, Senchi just crushed it.
So what's the lead out to now?
I don't think that's important.
That's a bit mean of you, Senchi.
It's doubled, actually, from 4 to 8. But we'll get to tips a little bit later on. Let's go back over the weekend's results because there were some absolute rippers. And Senchi, of course, you would have had your eyes very closely on the Scotch game. What happened?
Big game this.
Was the Cench Higginbotham Cup?
True.
It was.
So how long of the game were you there for? Because you were there at the start.
I was there for a quarter and 5 minutes.
So D-Lo were up when you would have left.
Yes, they were. It wasn't convincing. They had the ball in their forward half a lot, but failed to capitalise. What else? We're taking it 1 week at a time. We're getting players back. Focus on positives. One positive, they just look down at the best.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Old Scotch 12.779. D. Larcell 7.850. Tell us about it, Lockie.
Yeah, well, it was even right up until three-quarter time. Scotch led by 2 points. And then, just the last quarter, they sort of got away from them. De La Salle only kicking the 1 goal and Scotch were able to put on 5. So that was the difference ultimately. Speaking to Andy Otten, the coach, he was just disappointed with sort of the fall off in the last quarter there. They were competitive up until three-quarter time and just couldn't go with them. So, they'll continue to improve. But, Old Scotch just banking another important win there.
And like an amazing one at William Street, Bowie, Old Brighton. Bowie, 10-15-75. Couldn't get it done against Brighton, 12-6-78.
Bottom versus top. This was almost the upset of the year, Lockie.
Yeah, it could have been one of the great upsets if they were able to get it done. Really good performance from Bo Morris. Brighton holding on there by 3 points. Shout out to Sam Oakley, the Bo Morris ruckman. He was enormous, really giving them first look at the contest all afternoon. So he was great. Brighton responded after half-time and they found a way to sort of get the ball to their forwards and generate some better entries. And they were just a bit composed late, which got them the win ultimately. And Bo Morris, 10-15. If they capitalised on a couple of those early opportunities, might have been too little too late for Brighton. But, really improved showing from Bo Morris. And if they continue to play like that, they'll definitely bank a couple of wins to end the year.
Just shows how even the comp is, doesn't it? When top and bottom can play out an absolute nail-biter.
Yeah, no, it's always a great thing. Lockie, we talked a little earlier about Old Zabs and St Kevin's and the Premier Men's contest they've got this week and what a beauty it's going to be. Well, the under-19s went at it last weekend at Stradbroke Park and the Old Zabs getting a good win under their belt.
Yeah, important win. They're flying at the moment, Zabs, beating a pretty good team in St Kevin's. And, they were strong in the contest all day and impressive early. And, to speak to Paul Greenham, the St Kevin's coach, he seems to think that they're premiership favourites at the moment, the way they're going. So that's pretty big praise. And, they were just down 26 points early, St Kevin's, and couldn't quite recover. It was a bit of a reality check for them heading into finals. But, Matt Hanley, coach of Old Zabs, was pretty happy to get the win. Obviously, it's a bit of a rivalry game and sort of saying that there's no love lost between these two sides. So, they're going really well. So, they're one to watch, definitely.
It was a big game for St Bede's against University Blues. Given St Bede's had been sitting second a little while back, and I think they've lost 4 of their last 5 coming into the weekend, Lockie, but they snapped back into form against University Blues, 17-13, 115, defeating the Blues 7-2-44 by 71 points. That's a great bounce back for the Tigers.
Yeah, it was. Sort of looking at the fixtures last week, you would have thought this would have been one of the closest games of the round, but it just wasn't the case. They came out firing 71-point winners. The best 4-quarter performance of the year, Coach Sam Pecker seemed to think, so that's always good praise. And their midfield was just really dominant early and gave them first use, and a really good, strong defensive performance as well, keeping Uni Blues to only 44 points. So, Blues coach Steve Boakes admitted his side just simply weren't good enough from the beginning and sort of lacked a bit of composure and lacked a bit of fight in the game. So that was disappointing. But, Luke Beveridge, really good win, bounced back, and, really good 4-quarter effort there.
Final game of the weekend, a couple of teams down the bottom of the ladder. Caulfield got it done, 9-9-63, defeated Parkdale Vultures 8-11-59 by 4 points down at East Caulfield Reserve.
Yeah, shout out Caulfield here. They've had to endure a bit of animosity over the last couple of months with availability and having to back players up. So it was good to see them finally get a bit of reward for their hard work. They showed composure in tough conditions. Their pressure and discipline late was huge. They were composed. They're really impressive. And, shout out to Cooper Rule and everyone at Caulfield. It's a great win for them. To talk about Parkdale, look, they were impressive. They've got a lot of positives to take out of the game. I wouldn't be too worried about that. But, just the story of the game is Caulfield. They were really impressive.
The rumour going around is Noah Will had 45 disposals in this game.
Wow. He's had a fantastic year, hasn't he?
Yeah. He'll be straight back into the senior team.
Very exciting young talent. So we look at the ladder with 3 rounds to play. Old Brighton lead it by 2 games. They're on 48. A couple of games clear of Old Zabs on 40. Those two teams play each other this week. We will have that game on KTV. We'll get to that in just a moment. So Brighton 48, Old Zabs on 40. 1 game back to St Kevin's on 36, Old Scotch on 36, and now St Bede's also on 36. So St Bede's on the outside looking in their 5th. One game further back to D-La on 32. So D-La now a game outside plus percentage. Another game back to Uni Blues on 20. Game and a half, 26. 20 points for Parkdale, 18 rather for Caulfield, and 8 for Beau Morris. So really at the moment it sort of feels like, Lockie, it's probably a race in 6 for the top 4, you would think. Uni Blues now find themselves 2 games plus 28%. So effectively 3 games out with 3 to play. It's going to be tough from there.
Yeah, 100%. I think, it'll be one of those top 6 sides. I think Uni Blues probably cost them with that big loss on the weekend, and especially the margin they lost by. They already needed to make up some percentage, so the 71-point loss didn't help them at all. So, I think you're right there, but still an interesting finish. It'll be, really, really intriguing. Last few games of footy.
So, essentially, no surprises for you there, of course. You predicted all of those things would happen. So now we're interested in you just telling us who's going to win this week, and we can almost just call the games off, probably, and just accept that whatever you say is going to go. We're going to start with that game we mentioned. 9:20. It's going to be it's a Tunners triple header this weekend on KTV. We've got their under-19s at 9:20, into their reserves, into their seniors. And the reason we've actually swapped it to 9:20 is because Old Brighton, or Brighton Grammar, are also in the first ever APS Grand Final on Saturday afternoon. So we've moved that game, the under-19s game, to earlier in the day to allow families that have got kids in both the 19s and at the school game to be able to go and do both. That's the kind of caring, sharing community people that we are here at the VAFA. So 9:20 Saturday morning, live and exclusive on KTV at Brighton Beach Oval. It is first versus second. Old Brighton versus Old Zabs. Senchi, who wins?
The Zabs.
Zabs in the upset.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
I was going to go to Zabs, but
He's just swallowed his tongue. He can't say Old Brighton quick enough.
Be very careful, Lockie. You went against me last week and it didn't work out. So.
Yeah, look.
If you come for the king, you best not miss.
Yeah. I think it was a one-off, so I'm going to go Old Brighton. I've got to tip against you. I've got to make up this margin.
Yeah, that's true.
The Victorian Amateur Family Association.
Yes, correct. And at the other end of the table, it's 9th versus 10th in the next game. It's Caulfield versus Beau Morris, 9:20 at Glen Huntly Park.
Caulfield for me.
I'll go Beau Morris. They were good last week, so hopefully I can back up here.
Oh, this could be the start of the comeback. I'm sensing something here, Lockie. Although I'm fairly sure we said that last week. Another game where you've got 2 teams right next to each other. Uni Blues 7th, D-La 6th, 11:40 Crawford. Hugo, this is a huge game, middle of the ladder. We just said D-La are hanging in by a thread. They've got to find a way past the Blues this week.
Yeah, definitely. So it's, look, there's a lot of areas of improvement they can work on, and they've identified what that was. They obviously need to score more, get that forward line working a bit better. But I think, look, D-La should get their job done over there.
How's the lineup looking?
Any functions the night before?
No, we might throw
need to
one.
know about. Yeah, it might be worth it. You seem to you do your best when you're under adversity. Senchi, who wins?
Uni Blues.
Uni Blues for the Sanch.
What?
Yeah, well, in the sake of the tipping here, if I tip D-La, I might be organising a party for everyone to attend on Friday night because I need them to be in their best form. So I'll tip D-La.
D-La for you.
Nice.
St Kevin's in 3rd, St Bede's Mentone in 5th. Another massive game. Look at Senchi just shaking his head going, come on. These are impossible to tip. And then Matty looks at it and goes, mate, they're impossible. Wait till I talk Premier B.
Well, I reckon whoever I go here, Lockie's going to go against me.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're starting to work out how this works.
I think we've all picked up on it.
Give me St Bede's.
St Bede's for Senchi.
Yeah, St Kevin's for me.
Yes. Straight away. And the final game of the weekend, Old Scotch in 4th, Parkdale in 8th, 3 p.m. at Camberwell Sports Ground. Senchi?
I'm not sure he goes against me here, though. I'll go Scotch.
Lockie?
The Vultures. I can just see it happening.
It's kind of an all or nothing play. I like that.
Lockie has figured out the advantage of being behind.
That's
in
the whole
tips.
point. That's the point.
100%.
That is going to look good on the graphic. We've all got
2 weeks in a row. Hey, Lockie, thanks for your time as always, mate. Enjoy another incredible weekend of footy, and we look forward to chatting with you next week on For the Love of the Game.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Footy finals are almost here, and there's no better way to kick them off than at the 2026 William Buck VAFA Finals Luncheon. Join MC Nat Edwards, AFL legends and Brownlow medalists James Hurd and Jimmy Bartel, plus Jason Bennett and the VAFA media team for a live For the Love of the Game finals preview. Friday, September 4th at the RACV City Club. Enjoy a premium 2-course lunch, beverage package and an unforgettable afternoon of football stories and finals insights. Book your tickets now at vafa.com.au. Don't miss out on one of the biggest events on the VAFA calendar.
Time now for Cench Watch with our social media guru, Dylan CENCH FOOTY Humphries. What are we up to? 270? Are we still on 272,000 Instagram? Have we nudged?
The VAFA's just hit 17.7 thousand.
And that's
all that matters.
That's pretty good. And from a Cench perspective, where are we?
273.
273. Well done. Congratulations. Cench Watch. What's been catching your eye across the week?
Well, let's start with the undefeated teams.
Yes, let's do undefeated. We had 5 last week.
Yeah, so we lost one this week.
Oh, we're down to the bottom, the final 4.
Bo Morris headed to JL Murphy Reserve on the weekend and lost to the Chargers.
So we had Sunday Stoney on last week from Port Melbourne Chargers talking about how they believe they could be the first team to beat Bowie over the weekend, and we saw it live and free on VAFA TV.
Got it done. And to be fair, they nearly knocked him over way back at the start of the season.
It was only a 3-point game or something.
Inaccurate kicking, So, no, that's a great result for the Chargers.
So who are the 4? Can you run us through the 4?
Collegians Premier B Men's, D-La Prem B Men's Reserves, Wattle Park Div 3 Men's, and give me the other one, JV.
This is Cench Watch.
It's not JB Watch, mate. It's not JB Watch. You're going under the bus and he's like, hey, Jace, come with me. No, I'm good.
The reason I forget is because they had the draw. Masala in third.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll let you. We'll let you that one. I saw the social post from D-La saying, what's the score when you serve an ace to start a game? 15 love, and what are we? 15 zip.
Yeah, nice. Let's go over to Q Under 19 Men's, who had their first win of the year. So they're in Div 2 North Under 19s. They won by 1 point.
Oh, good on them.
So it's been a bit of a tough year.
Yeah,
they've had some tough results. They've struggled for numbers some weeks, and they've had to call on some younger blokes, 16-year-olds, to fill the team. So
well done to them, because Hugo, sometimes that happens, right? You just get a team and you've really only got 3/4 of a team or 9/10 of a team. You just don't have enough blokes, and then you have some drop off and you have a few injuries and you just know it's going to be a hard year. So, and we've seen that over the years. We've talked about Ely Park and some of these other teams and how they've just had the commitment and the mental fortitude and the heart and the spirit to just keep turning up every week.
Yeah, resilience.
Yeah.
It's absolute resilience. And, geez, they would have enjoyed that too. And
like winning a flag.
But to win it by that margin as well. So that's absolutely fantastic. So it's a
done.
reward for effort for the whole crew there.
Well done to the Bears.
Yeah, great social post by them too. Great photos and all that.
Good on them.
Over to the performance of the week, the shout out of the week, I guess. In Premier, there weren't Premier A, B, C. There weren't too many big performances, but Fletcher Ford from Mazenod has done it again.
Because he had a massive week last week, didn't he?
So last 3 weeks, 27 clearances, 21 clearances, and 20 clearances this week.
And he's a ruck, isn't he? So he's taken it out of a ruck. Yeah, gotcha.
But this week, 37 disposals, 31 contested, 20 clearances, 25 hitouts, and a goal for 242 ranking points. They got the 29-point win over Ormond.
Is that the most ranking points you've seen this year, do you think?
I believe
42?
I believe so, yes.
That is a monster game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you know what you're up against when you're facing Mazenod and Fletcher Ford, Hugo. If you've got a big bloke, and I don't know if he's whether he's super tall or whether he's tall and really broad, but if you've got a guy that I presume is taking it out of the ruck quite a bit, how do you coach against that?
It's a tough one because if he's not going to take it, he'll tap it to someone. So if you get too focused on him, he can just tap it away as well. But you've just got to get the guys to compete, and hopefully you can work up the ground and what they're doing with it next. But short of having everyone tackle him at once and drag him down, that's a tough one.
However, that wasn't the performance of the weekend.
What? 242 points wasn't the top performance of the week.
I'm not sure if you saw our man Matty Donald on SEN on Thursday night.
Dogs Radio.
Absolutely crushed it. So
well done, Matty. That was fantastic.
Shout out to you,
we all got
Matty.
a buzz out of you seeing you do that on SEN. Well done.
No, thank you, Jace, Senchi and Hugo. No, it was quite a thrill to be in the box and to call a Dogs game. Unfortunate that we didn't get the win, but a great experience all the same. But it's not possible without all of the time, the resources, and the effort that the VAFA have invested into me over the last few years. And so to the entire competition, I owe you a great amount of gratitude. So thank you to everyone for your support along the way.
Well said. You'd be nothing without Hugo and I. Nothing at all. You'd be nothing.
Great work, Matty.
Well said, mate. Well done. Hey, is that it for you from Cench Watch?
Yeah, that's all.
Beautiful. That was a very good one this week.
Short and sharp.
Well done. We should always do it very late in an afternoon. Gives you an extra day to actually get some stuff. Well done by you. Hey, big bags thanks to Sharon. We had another 3 double-figure tallies this weekend, Hugo, which is pleasing. Ari McLeod from Oakley Under 19s kicked 11. He's got 13 for the year. It was just his 3rd game. So that was a handy little inclusion. Hey, what are you doing the next few weeks, just out of interest? 10 for Eamon Avery from Hawthorn Seniors. He's got 39 for the year, and 10 also from Jonathan Merlo, who I think is the ex-Victorian cricketer, isn't it, John Merlo?
Sounds about
right. Old
yeah.
Zab's thirds. He's got 24 for the year, so he bagged 10 for the day. 9 to Charlie Grummett from Old Carey Seniors. Just 20 years of age. He's not eligible for the Rising Star, though, because he played 17 games previously. He's got 32 goals for the year, but to turn out as a 20-year-old and kick 9 for old Carey in the ones in a massive game against Old Melburnians, what a performance.
Amazing. It's you just wonder with these young guys, do they play all the games? But when they're there, to kick 9, 9's an amazing achievement. Couldn't they get him 10? Surely they'd know.
Well,
he would have known.
I reckon he kicked 3 of his 9 goals in like the last 5 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Junk time?
Yeah.
Oh,
well, they still count.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he was the highest ranked player in showcase round. So
okay, great. Yeah, Premier Showcase round was fantastic. It was so good to have that mega war going, be able to watch all the games at once. We saw some wonderful footy. And 4 players kicked 8. Hamish McMillan from St Mary's Salesian, Zach Gucciardo from St Mary's Salesian Reserves. Both those teams had big performances. 8 for a man with possibly the most VAFA name in all of the VAFA. But when I tell you what team he plays for, you'll be like, what? So 8 goals for Henry Stratford Brown. But he plays for Preston Bull Ants Reserves. Here you go. Not where you would expect Henry Stratford Brown to be.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. That's got really a Scotch ring.
Very much a Scotch sort of a Henry Well played, Stratford Brown. Well done, 22. And 8 also for Joel Paxton from South Melbourne Rezzies. So those players all kicked 8. 7 players kicked 7 on the weekend. 16 players kicked 6. It was a big weekend for goal kicking. So Ton Watch continues to get tight, thanks to Sharon. And we actually did an audit. I did an audit this week because I want to make sure that the players at the top of the table aren't getting stiffed any goals and they're not getting any extras that they don't deserve. So I went through James Stewart's goals for the year and actually found that there was an extra goal that hadn't been counted on Play HQ that existed on Premier Data. So he actually picked one up. So he kicked 5 for the weekend, James Stewart. He now leads the comp again on 69 by 1 goal from Luca DeLello, who kicked 4 on 68. So Stewart 69, DeLello 68, Patrick Carricker on 66. He kicked 3 for the weekend. 1 back to Rogan Kitts from Oakley Seniors. And Braden May did a fantastic article. I'm not sure if you guys saw it in the News Corp papers on Rogan Kitts this year, stepping in for Luke Ashen and just having a great year. Rogan Kitts, 65 goals. He's kicked 5 for the week. Hayden Boyce from Mazenod Seniors kicked 6. He's on 64. Tommy Gorell kicked 6. He's on 62. Joey Katsubas, who we keep talking about, the Masala thirds, a 21-year-old in his first season. He's kicked 13 goals in the last 2 weeks and 26 in the last 6. He's now got 59. He's coming with a bullet. He's only 10 behind all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, he's made up ground very quickly.
Come from nowhere. Last week was the first time we'd even mentioned him on Ton Watch. He wasn't even in the top 15. He is flying home.
Only 1 home and away game left.
Yeah, that's true. Masala in the divisionals. Yeah, that's right.
And he should play both games this week.
That's I like the way you think. I like the way you think. Mahi Patel kicked 4. He's on 58. He's had 20 goals in the last 5 weeks, and he played 19s this week, didn't he? We noticed because again, I think they're sitting on top of the ladder, aren't they? Willie Seawise in the 19, so they're making sure he qualifies for finals.
And they need him this week as well because it's 1v2 in the 19s.
Yeah, so there's a bit of that you don't at the back end of the year which makes sense because I mean they're in a relegation race. Obviously, they're playing collegians this week though.
Yes.
So you would think that's going to be a tough game to win. So do they then? If you're Contazoglu, do you say, we want Mahi Patel to help us win a 19s flag, which for the entire club would be absolutely enormous for our pathway that we're trying to build out the other side of town? They don't have one at the moment. They're building it steadily to make it that option that you come all the way through at Willie, and they know that's the future of their club. You've got that on one side, but then you've got the relegation fight on the other, but you are playing collegians. What would you do?
I'd have a conversation with the player first and foremost, which might have already happened. So what's the priority there? And you put the options in front of them, and then you'd strongly suggest which way, and always back self-interest, Jace, because you know it's trying. So I'd be trying to get them to play seniors this week to keep out of the relegation zone. But you'd have the good conversation because you can't make these guys do anything realistically anyway. So if they want to go back to play 19s, then you have to do that.
Yeah,
but
I think he's got to play 1 more 19s before the end of the year. Because he's got to play 2 after June 30, I think, to be able to qualify for finals. So he might have 1 more. So if it's not this week, he's still got another opportunity or 2. So Mahi's on 58. Mitch Brown's still stuck on 57 with that hamstring. We'll have to wait to see whether or not he's going to be back. He's still only 12 off the lead, though. That's the thing about Mitch. So whilst he's missed about a month of footy, if he gets back and suddenly has a big bag, he's right back in the mix again. Michael Van Benton from MHSOB Rezzies and thirds. He's on 56. He kicked 5 on the weekend. 4 goals for Darcy Hepburn from Scob Under 19s on 55. 3 for Will Snooks from Monash on 54. 4 for Charlie McIsaac from Old Zabs. He's on 52. 2 for Luke Stubbs, the powerhouse premiership captain. He's on 50. 1 for Jai Pugsley, who's also raised the bat. He's on 50 as well for St Bede's Mentone Tigers. And Will Hart kicked 1. He's on 49. So 69 for Stewart, 68 DeLello, 66 for Carricker, 65 for Kits, 64 for Boys, 62 for Gorell, all the players that are in the 60s. So the top 6 players are separated by just 7 goals. And I think we've had 14 players now kick 50 so far this season, which is a wonderful performance.
Terrific. I've got to ask you, Cinch, again, James Stewart. Are we
69,
still not believing?
Well,
69
we're just finding goals for him now, so I don't know.
69 with at least 5 games to play. He's got 3 home and away plus at least 2 finals. So that's 5 goals a week and he pretty much gets there.
He's got St Bernard's and Caulfield his next fortnight.
I reckon they might rest him round 18. So
not for the sake of Tunwatch.
No, we're having a word with Matt Smith.
Yeah,
they won't need to win that game. So
that cannot happen. Yeah, but he needs Tunwatch.
Yeah, but
it's not all just about your team. Don't be selfish.
And they get the bye the week after anyway.
And in the VAFA women's, Geordie Mifsud held goalless on the weekend. She sits in the lead though. She's on 42, 7 goals clear of Bella Geetsman, who kicked 3. She's on 35 for Ormond Seniors. Georgia Harris from Port Chargers kicked 2. She's on 32. 1 for Mia Cowan on 31 and Asher Price goalless on 28. So 42 for Mifsud, 35 for Geetsman, 32 for Harris lead the way in VAFA women's. That is Big Bags and Tunwatch, which brings us to tips time. Matthew, you had an outstanding Premier Women's weekend. You tipped 4 out of 4.
Oh, did I really?
You did.
Oh, wow.
But sadly for you, so did Braden. So you didn't make any advances, but still, I was
going to say, I honestly have no idea how I've gone this weekend.
Yep.
Haven't been able to look at it
so
yet.
you got 9 and Braden got 10. So the gap's at 14. You went 4, 2 and 3. So here's your chance. Okay, round 16. I've got Braden's tips already. We'll start with Premier Women's. Fitzroy in 7th against Old Scotch, top of the table, 2 p.m. Brunswick Street. Braden's gone Scotch.
Yeah, I've also gone the Cardinals for this one, Jace.
St Kevin's in 8th against Q in 4th, 2 p.m. Rigetti. Braden's gone Q.
Yes, Q as well.
Old Geelong, massive game this one. Geelong are 5th. They've won 4 in a row there. They're on the charge, trying to get up into that top 4. Can they take a top 4 scalp? It's 5th versus 2nd. They take on Caulfield Grammarians, 2 p.m. Como. Braden's gone the Fields.
I've gone Caulfield as well.
And the final game, just the same really situation for West Brunswick. They're 6th. They need to start claiming some scalps of teams ahead of them if they're going to make it. They get their chance this week. They take on the 3rd placed Old Brighton, 2 p.m. at McAllister. Braden playing it safe. He's gone Old Brighton.
Yeah, I've gone Old Brighton as well.
Okay, so you're not making up ground in Premier Women's. Okay, Westbourne have got the bye. So obviously you've got some massive tips coming in here in Prem B and Prem Men's. Yeah. Okay, Premier B Men's. We'll also get Cench and Hugo's thoughts on all of these. And we're going to start with the game we talked about not that long ago. Collegians, top of the table against Willie, coming off a great win. They sit in 9th. Braden has obviously gone the Lions.
Yeah, I'd love to tip an upset here, but it can't look past Collegians. Nah, can't look past Collegians.
Be brave, Matthew.
No. Hugo, who do you like?
Yeah, Collegians.
Be brave.
Yeah, no,
well, my tips aren't really tracked for this, so I'm going to go Willie.
Yeah,
so.
why not? You're going to swing for the fences on this one and look like a hero when you get it right.
Yes.
Massive game, this one, Matty. Old Campbell in 4th, AJAX in 6th. It's one of those games, if AJAX are going to find their way back up into the top 4, they're going to have to take someone's spot. And Old Camberwell is one of those teams that they could do. 4th versus 6th. Old Camberwell versus AJAX. Braden's gone with the Wellers.
Yeah, a couple of big defeats these two teams are coming off this weekend. I'll tip the Wellers as well, though.
I think AJAX are going to bounce back here. I think they're building something.
Yeah, I agree with Hugo.
AJAX for both of you. Old Ivanhoe in 10th. OM's in 3rd, who have been up and down and all over the place. They copped a belting last week at the hands of Carey. Braden is going to tip them to bounce back. He's picked OMs.
Yeah, I feel like last week was an anomaly. I've got no idea what was going on there. I'm going to tip Old Melburnians again.
I like Ivanhoe at home. I think Melburnians maybe just a bit of that form carrying over.
I'll go Old Melburnians.
Bo Morris in 5th against D-Lar in 2nd. So again, we talk about teams on the outside looking in. If you want in, you're going to have to knock someone else out that's already there. So Bowie in 5th, D-Lar a 2nd. Braden's gone with D-Lar.
Here's a chance. I'm going with the Sharks.
Your eyes just lit up.
Yes, like a shark. So what's that? That brings the deficit back to what?
Oh, like 13. You're right back in this.
Yeah.
Senchi?
I don't back Matty getting this tip right, so I'll go against him.
You'll go D-Lar. Hugo?
Yeah, I'll go D-Lar.
With confidence?
No. I think Bowie's had a really good run of form recently.
Yeah, well, they did a number on AJAX, didn't they?
And obviously D-Lar on the weekend just weren't good enough against Willie, so not with confidence, but I'll stick fat.
And maybe the most critical game of the whole weekend in Premier B. Old Carey in 8th, Old Geelong in 7th. Oh, what a huge game. The winner stays alive in the top 4 race, and the loser suddenly is looking over their shoulder again at relegation. So this is a huge game. Braden has gone for the Panthers.
Oh, okay. I've gone Old Geelong. I'm back in led by Tommy Gorell to kick another bag. I'm gonna back Old Geelong to get up here.
Yeah, I think Carey get this one.
Old Geelong.
Old Geelong on the road. William Buck Premier Men's round 16 from 2 p.m. Wow, you guys will be down at Toorak Park, the salubrious palatial surrounds of the Toorak Park commentary box. It's Old Zabs versus St Kevin's from 1:45 on VAFA TV and the SEN app. Braden's gone for Zabs.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, there's going to be some really tough fixtures this weekend. St Kevin's.
St Kevin's for Matty.
I'd like to see St Kevin's team sheet of availabilities, but I think I will go St Kevin's regardless.
St Kevin's as well.
St Kevin's for all three of you. Old Brighton versus Old Haileybury. This is our KTV game, 1:55 down at Brighton Beach. Braden is back to Tunners.
Yeah, I'll Brighton bounce back here.
Yep, Brighton for me.
Yep, Tunners.
Tunners across the board, unanimous. Whew, what a game this is. We've talked about it a couple of times in the show. Caulfield Grammarians versus Old Scotch. Winner, a massive step to safety. A loser, very nervous come Saturday night. Braden's gone for the Cardinals.
I'm going to go the Fields here, but not with a great deal of confidence.
I can see that in your voice and your pained expression.
This is a real coin toss game.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go Scotch here in the same sentiment as Matty. Not a lot of confidence.
Yeah,
in this.
toss of the coin.
Yep.
Caulfield.
Caulfield.
What? Hang on a minute.
Yeah, just put all the kids down at the 19s and Caulfield.
Wow, okay. Old Trinity and Uni Blacks. This is a fascinating game. A fascinating game made all the more interesting by Trinity getting up on the weekend, and now such not only fascinating but so important. We've spoken about the relegation repercussions for this one. Will it be Old Trinity taking another step towards safety, or will the Blacks bounce back and kick clear again? Braden's gone for the Tees at Daily Oval.
Yep. Yeah, Old Trinity for me as well.
Back-to-back wins for the Tees.
I'll go Trinity as well, purely on the fact that they're at home.
I'll go Uni Blacks.
Blacks for Senchi. And the final game of the weekend, top versus bottom, Blues and St Bernard's. Braden's gone for the Blues at Melbourne Uni.
Yeah, hard to go past Uni Blues at the moment. Great result for the Snow Dogs last week, but led by James Stewart, this should be a pretty comfortable Blues win.
Yeah, Blues for mine.
Yep, Uni Blues.
No upsets of the season in this one. Well, that wraps up for the love of the game this week. Massive show again, as always. Next week, we get to start talking about finals footy in some of the lower divisions and thirds footy, etc. Finals just around the corner. There's relegation races. There's finals races. So much to look forward to. We'll be back to cover it all off next week for the love of the game.